Is this only for like questions about veganism?
No, no, it doesn't matter.
Oh, so, why aren't you a theist, Mike?
There's no compelling evidence for God.
No compelling evidence. Okay. You know you can be a vegan and be a theist, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
just I don't see any evidence for God, dude. I really don't.
I
Um,
mean,
I think there's actually lots of evidence against it.
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you. If you hold to any like, I know like you could say like there's no evidence, but do you like think any specific arguments like against like God would work like a problem from equal like whether or not it's like evolutionary
Absolutely,
argument?
absolutely.
Okay.
Problem of evil, divine hiddenness. Um, I mean, scientific facts that I think make God unlikely, like
Hmm.
evolutionary reasons, like why do we have all kinds of vestigial structures that give us disease and give us shitty uh, health. I don't know. It seems like
Hmm.
there's a lot of things that God cannot explain.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, I didn't come to like give any criticisms to your reasoning, just more or less hear your opinion. I also didn't really get in depth into listening to hear your response on. I think you like responded to Theus Brooks' video on like fine tuning. If you could like sum up probably your like best like one or two reasons as to why you would deny like the argument from fine tuning.
Yeah, I actually have a document,
Okay.
but when I was responding to his video, but essentially, I think um, there's no way you can definitively say that the universe was tuned, even if we accept and grant fine tuning, which we don't have to, right?
Hmm.
Um, Even if I grant you fine tuning, there's no way you can pinpoint life specifically and say that life was tuned because the same laws of physics that govern life are the same laws of physics that govern everything else in the universe, including like non-life. So I think there's nothing about life in particular that would be more likely under theism. Um, but also the fact that we have naturalistic reasons why there would be fine tuning, multiverse or potentially some kind of quantum mechanical reason, where all possibilities exist and we just happen to be in one, or there's all
Hmm.
kinds of naturalistic reasons you can reason for fine tuning.
Yeah, I'm not like really well versed in the like literature on fine tuning. I don't really know if like there are good objections. I kind of like what you like said there, because it's not necessarily like an argument I full on hold to. Like I think this is what you said. Like it seems as if like the universe is also fine tuned for like black holes or something like that. And I
There's
know
no
it's
symmetry breaker. There would be no symmetry breaker if you're going to posit that the universe is tuned for life. There's no symmetry breaker between the universe tuned for life and the universe tuned for black holes or anything else.
Mhm.
As well as the fact that the constants the constants don't we don't even know if the constants could change. We don't know if the constants that we know of today are fundamental. They could be emergent to some other fundamental thing.
Mhm.
Number one. Number two, who said the constants could change? What if they don't change? Three, what if you change one of the constants, but the other constants also change at the same time simultaneously? To kind of like a seesaw effect. Right? One side goes up, the other side goes down, and you can never get this equilibrium. It's always equal. Or imagine the constants being different. Like the cosmological constant could be 10 to 20 times greater or less, and we'd still be here, right? So I think there's no good reason to think that the universe was tuned.
Mhm.
And we could tune
Yeah.
it better, especially when we can tune it better for life.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if this is what you're insinuating. I don't know how I'd feel about like positing like the laws as like brute facts, but I do like what you said. Like it does seem as if like we could like maybe adjust one law and then like as well as like obviously we can't do this, but like as if like one law was adjusted as well as like the seesaw effect, like you said, and other laws were adjusted. I don't know why something else couldn't come out to be some other type of way, but yeah, those are things I'll take into consideration. Yeah, that's really why I came up here. I was just gonna see your opinion on it.
Yeah, and also I think fine tuning actually fires back on the theist, because under fine tuning we would expect the universe to be only life. We would, if the universe was tuned for life, we would expect only
Mhm.
life, right?
Mhm.
Think of me tuning for a radio station. My radio station, when I tune it to a specific station, I want that one station. I don't want all the other stations interfering with mine. I want that one station. So if the whole point of tuning for something is to get that one thing.
Mhm.
So it seems like if there is fine tuning for life in particular, we would expect a universe that was only containing life, right? A universe like an infinite plane of people and animals, and we would not expect this kind of world where we are a tiny fraction of what's out there, not even significant in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
So I think that's a reason against theism.
Mhm. Yeah, it seems as if and I don't know if this is what you meant by this at the end when you said like we're like small, but yeah, I don't know which side I would take on this, like in this argument specifically, but it seems as if God would have to work through some like it seems as if it's like God against all these complex laws to get to what he's like trying to strive for, which is life. I know like I think Rob Coons would say that this is God trying to show off his creative power, but I don't really know. Like it seems kind of like ad hoc, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll just have to think about that, but that's just that specific response.
yeah. You'll find that every time the theist tries to make an excuse, it's always ad hoc.
Mhm.
Always ad hoc. There's no predictions you can make uh, that come out of theism. There's no novel predictions you can make. They're always ad hoc.
Mhm.
And this is one of the biggest reasons why I think theism's nonsense. But I'm not here to say that naturalism necessarily makes more sense because of that. But what I'm saying is
Yeah.
we're at a standstill. Uh,
Mhm.
so, but I would say that, yeah, of course I'm a naturalist, and I think naturalism makes more sense for many reasons.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll stop that there. I was just gonna get those questions in, but appreciate you letting me up.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good one.
Finally, a rational guest.
I do have a fine tuning question for you. Um, from what I've seen, at least in the literature, because I was hearing your previous point before about how there isn't much. Um, how do I phrase this? That fine tuning doesn't really seem to be so much of a thing because the life permitting ranges are actually much larger or wider than what some let's say theists or some scientists say they are. Do you have any good? I mean, maybe you covered this in your fine tuning videos. I could check those out. But do you have any good sources for that? Because like typically the way I've seen most even like atheists don't mind accepting fine tuning. They just dispute the probability claim. So they don't mind saying if the constants were different, then you wouldn't see life. They would just say that it's just they would disagree with the probability distribution that the theists provide.
Yeah, I have a video where I give the sources. I forgot what it was called, but I can always link it to you later. But I know there's one source. It's a very good source
Mm-hmm.
that goes through all the different constants, all the different atomic energies, and all those things, and it shows you the ranges which they can exist, where life could exist. And
Do you
then
know
it
what
goes
kind of?
on.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Then it goes on to explain how we could change the laws of nature and give rise to a better universe, better suited for life. Like for example, if we had more dark energy, if we had less dark energy, there'd be more life because there'd be more time for life to emerge. Um, if we changed certain things, we'd have more mass accumulating, giving rise to more stars. More stars means more life. So there's it's a great paper, and somewhere I can find it maybe, but
Okay. Because I am curious too. Because do you know even with those recalculations how they configure the variables in the probability space? So I think what most theists would argue it's like 1 out of 10 to the 100th power or something like that. Do you know after they configure it what they would get the expected probabilities to be? Not probably. I shouldn't say. I don't want to. I don't want to beg the question and say probabilities. Just how would they get the expected parameters to be?
the expected parameters are just mathematically found. Like they just do It's just simple mathematics.
But I mean,
They
as in like, if I let's say, suppose the general fine tuning argument, they would say, well, look, only
This
one
is the worst
out of 10 to 100, 10 to 100th power of the let's say given configurations are going to produce life. That's what most people, proponents of fine tuning, would want to say.
About
You know, even after
120
they
orders of
do these,
magnitude. The
they do an
cosmological
analysis and say,
constant
look,
could
you could actually get, there's a bunch of other kind of configurations that are able to produce life. Do you know what the kind of values that they get out of that, or do you know if they just said it was the indecisive on the matter?
No, they had a bunch. So the study I was talking about is like a huge meta-analysis on different types of papers, and it found that the gravitational force could be 10 times larger. Uh, the cosmological constant could be 10 times larger. Um, uh, you know, the electromagnetic force uh, has to be smaller than 10 to the negative 32. Like it shows you the different constraints in which we could exist along with the laws of nature. But I'm trying to find the.
Because sometimes what happens is if they don't give a number, and this is also a problem. This is not even the critique of this study per se, because this is also a problem for people who advocate for fine tuning. What you get sometimes is a possibility or a probability space that's infinite. And if you have an infinite probability space, you just can't do math. I mean, you would need really esoteric mathematics to do that. And this is a
Yeah.
criticism that had been going around since the last 20 years or so with fine tuning arguments. So it doesn't help the theists, but it does. What a lot of theists try to do is just bound up the probability. People like Luke Barnes and other theists try to bound up the probability space. I'm curious if this study, this meta-analysis, then makes its own. I have to check it out too. I'll look through it myself. If it gives different parameters and then gives different numbers, because just saying, well, look, let's say, what was it, like a gravitational force could be 10 times stronger. If there's no cap on the upper limit on how strong the force could be, then you could just get infinite amounts of numbers. And
Yeah.
then therefore you just can't do math at that point because unless you're relying on really, really esoteric mathematics that you're able to divide by infinity.
Yeah, there's a units issue as well. I mean, the units you're using, I mean, if you measure my height in meters, it's 2 meters approximately. But if
Yeah.
you measure my height in light years is like 1 times 10 to the negative 16. And if you change my height by 1 to the 10 to the negative 16 points, I'll be double the height, right? And that seems like a small amount of change would yield a big difference in my height. But obviously, it's just a units issue. It's just a units semantics.
Mhm.
But I found that the review. It's from XQXY, FQXY, Foundational Questions Institute. Miriam
Okay.
Michael. It's called Fine Tuning. What is fine tuning? The ingredients for life. And it actually goes through all the mathematics and numbers. And it's like a review in all the different papers. There's like
What's the name one more time? So I'm gonna type it on my computer.
Just type in FQXI, fine tuning.
Okay. Because normally what I do if I deal with or if I talk to not even theists, there's a lot of non-theists that defend fine tuning. I just assume their numbers correct, and then I think there are other problems with fine tuning arguments. But I assume the numbers correct. But I haven't really done a deep dive. I just take their word for it. Like, oh, okay, if the cosmological constant was different, I assume. But I haven't
Don't
I
do
haven't
that.
seen much. Yeah, because they always say like this is like not up for dispute by physicists, and I don't know if that's true or not. Like if it is,
It's not true.
yeah.
Nobody look. There is a consensus though among scientists that the universe, the laws as we know it, seemed to be a specific way to yield this type of universe, and that's really a tautology. I mean, anybody can understand that, but there is no consensus that life is special in this universe, right? And the universe is tuned for life in particular. So there is no consensus there. So, but yeah, that's not even it's not even relevant actually because we don't have to grant the theist that the universe is even tuned at all. We don't
That's
have to.
interesting. Okay, I'll check that out. Thank you. Okay, I appreciate it.
Yep. Any other questions? Just not.
Yeah, Mike.
Hi.
How to say, you guys were just talking with Daniel about how, I mean, I think you brought up the cosmological constant, that the cosmological constant could vary like 10 times what it is now and still permit life.
Yeah.
So, I know like advocates of fine tuning, like Robin Collins, are perfectly fine with saying that. But they just argue that like the cosmological constant can vary from like 0 to the Planck scale. So, like, even though it might seem like a wide range within the possible parameter that the cosmological constant could have been, it's really not that impressive.
So you're basically saying that he thinks that it's impressive that there's a certain range in the first place?
Well, no, he's just saying that like to say that the cosmological constant could vary 10 times what it is now isn't going to be impressive within the possible range that the cosmological constant could have been.
Right. But we all we can go by is what we understand the constants to be and how we think they can vary. And if you're going to posit some ultimate being who has all power and authority, it would seem that he would get things in a particular very almost infinitely small parameter. But we don't really see that according to our understanding of the universe. There's no reason to hold to the notion that the universe had to be so tuned for life when there is a range. I think the fact that there's a range in the first place means that there's a lot more we don't understand about it. Yeah.
I don't really get the objection. Is it just that you don't think like God would finely tune the universe? I'm not sure what the objection is here.
Well, I don't think that you even posited is something that isn't actually. I don't think you posited an objection either. I think you're just.
Well, I'm saying that
Oh
you
well, that's
said,
not impressive to me. Well,
yeah,
that
well,
doesn't
you
really
said the
matter. It's
cosmological
not really
constant could
objective.
vary 10 times what it is now. What I'm saying is that contemporary physics, so like physicists like Robin Collins or Luke Barnes, will say that, yeah, they totally agree with that. What they're saying is the cosmological constant could have varied within a substantially bigger amount within these epistemic probabilities.
Oh,
And
okay.
so to claim that like the cosmological constant could vary 10 times what it is now is just going to be irrelevant to the actual conversation.
Okay, but then this would apply to every universe, right? I don't see how this grants you any more credence towards theism, right? Where is the how is the fine tuning argument doing any work for theism? Can you explain that?
Well, I think the typical presentation of it is just that a finely tuned universe is going to be much more likely under a theistic hypothesis than a naturalistic hypothesis.
Okay, and by fine tuning, do you, in which under what parameters is it tuned? Right. This is the whole entire point of contention, right? The entire point of the fine tuning is that there's a parameter in which it's tuned. Because if you're going to open up the range to fine tuning to be, oh, it doesn't matter the range. It could be 0 to 1 billion. It could be any possible range within all range, any small range within all the possible ranges. Well, then now you don't really have a fine tuning argument. Now all you have is a universe that we are in, and could have been widely different, but we just are in this one. We're just I don't see why this does any work for theism.
Well, as I said, you know how like the cosmological constant is like derived? Like, like, because like the way in which they typically would get to the cosmological constant is they'll plug in certain things or features about the universe. It's like they'll plug in, yeah, like ordinary matter, dark matter,
Yeah.
neutrinos. They'll all plug that into general relativity, right?
Right. Right.
And there's certain cosmological, there's not a cosmological constant, but there's certain constants within the universe. That was a voice crack. There are certain constants within the universe that are fixed, right? Whereas something like the cosmological constant, I mean, we're not just making this up. There's nothing definitively that orders the cosmological constant to be within a certain parameter.
Okay. But
Yeah.
I still don't see where the explanatory work is being done by the theist by using fine tuning. I don't see it. I don't see how theism explains anything more than naturalism can.
So, like, okay, so like a naturalistic hypothesis, let's say the simplest naturalistic hypothesis will be a naturalism that's going to be random, right? Whereas a typical theistic hypothesis isn't going to posit some sort of randomness that's applicable. Like, this is how
Oh,
typically like people would think of the difference between theism and naturalism is that naturalism is the hypothesis reality is fundamentally indifferent, whereas theism is the hypothesis reality is fundamentally loving, something like that. And so a finely tuned universe is going to confirm the secondary hypothesis over the third or the first hypothesis.
We don't have to hold to a random universe, though. We can say that the universe is determined. We don't even have to grant fine tuning for the theist, right? We don't even have to hold to fine tuning at all, and still naturalism can remain. I don't see why theism has any more credence here.
Well, I mean, are you just rejecting fine tuning? Because I mean, like if you're rejecting fine tuning, I think you're going against contemporary physics.
Well, why do we have to hold? Why do we have to accept that? Right? We don't have to grant you fine tuning.
Well, I just gave an entire
It's not
case
a
about how the
fact. It's not
cosmological
a fact.
constant could vary.
Well, that's just mathematics. I mean, we can play with the numbers all day long,
I mean,
but
it's contemporary physics. It's not just mathematics.
okay. Well, it still doesn't mean we have to, take it as fact. But I mean, I can grant you that there's a consensus amongst physicists that the universe, the laws in nature seem to be configured in a way that allows for the universe to exist the way it does. But it says nothing about life, right? And again, we still have a naturalistic account for this. We can posit just deterministic laws, or some, yes, we can posit a random thing, or we can posit some quantum mechanical thing. And necessarily, we get the laws of nature. We do, right? I don't see why theism does any work here.
Right. So like necessity isn't going to affect the epistemic probability of something happening though. So like to give an analogy, like let's suppose that we were to walk across like the Sahara Desert or Sahara Desert or something. And we were to come across like a Bible or Quran that was naturally formed from the sand. Just positing necessity isn't going to affect the epistemic probability of that happening. Right.
I understand that, but the fact that you don't even understand the probability, you don't know the probability. Nobody knows the probability of the emergence of life versus non-emergence of life. So,
Well, are we talking about emergent to life or fine tuning? I'm
well,
confused now.
well, are you gonna? So, is your argument that fine tuning only applies to the universe in totality, or are you saying that fine tuning applies to life in particular?
Well, only the universe was the. I never really applied it to like abiogenesis or something.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, again, like scientists agree that the universe may be fine tuned. That isn't. I don't see how this gets to God or any closer to God.
Well, again, I think I already mentioned this, that a naturalistic hypothesis is going to be a hypothesis in which the universe is indifferent, and a theistic hypothesis, but again, is going to be a hypothesis that the universe is fundamentally loving. And so this would confirm the theistic hypothesis, right? So like give an analogy.
How?
What?
How?
Because a theistic hypothesis would predict that God would create embodied moral agents, whereas a naturalistic hypothesis isn't going to predict that.
Well, we could. We could say there's a quantum mechanical reason as to why a life would be
Do you have
yielded.
any evidence of that?
Well, you don't have evidence of God doing that either, right? So this isn't how that works, right? We can posit, logically speaking, some kind of naturalistic mechanism that would have some kind of disposition towards life.
Yeah, but the likelihood of that disposition to life is going to be just as likely to have a disposition to a dead universe or disposition into a cosmological constant.
And the
to an
same
infinite
applies to
life.
theism. The same applies to theism.
You think that the theistic hypothesis, the hypothesis that reality is fundamentally loving, it's just as likely that God would create embodied moral agents as it would be that God would create a dead universe, or
Well, we don't know. Yeah, it's possible. It doesn't seem like
I mean,
it
it's
would be
not
more
going to be
likely.
within the theistic hypothesis or typical theistic hypothesis. That's not true.
Okay, well, again, anybody can make up a hypothesis that's ad hoc. So can we do the same thing under naturalism? I can posit again the same thing you're doing with your theistic God, the loving thing. We don't have to say it's the loving. We don't have to give the universe some kind of. We can just say it as a natural disposition towards life. And the probability, I don't see why it would be any different under naturalism versus theism.
I think there's two objections. So the first objection I feel like I already responded to, just positing a disposition to life. Right, it's equally likely that naturalism would have a disposition to a dead universe or some sort of constant which would permit life. So it just pushes the problem back. But what was the
No,
first?
we would say that because because there's some kind of fundamental law that has a disposition towards life, it would be more likely that we'd see life under these conditions.
That wasn't. I didn't contest that.
Okay, so what's your issue?
Well, my contest was that it's just as likely that naturalism would have laws that are disposed to, or that are ordered to creating a dead universe, or that are ordered to creating some sort of cosmological constant which wouldn't permit life, right?
No, that would be my hypothesis. Just like you're doing. You see, this is what you're doing with your theism, because I can posit an evil god who would just as likely not have life permitting universes happen, right? So under
Well, yeah,
theism, you're
that's not gonna
safe
provide
from
much explanatory power.
what?
That's not gonna provide much explanatory power to the fine tuning we see. Right? I could posit a god who
What if
desires
this evil?
unicorns or something.
What if there's a god who is evil, who makes only one type of life, and all the other universes that are not don't have life in it, and in this the one universe with life in it, it's hell for them, right? It's possible, right? That's indistinguishable from a universe that's not tuned for life, to me.
But that's just not gonna. I don't know. That's not an explanatory virtuous hypothesis. I think I want to go back to the thing
Neither
you
is the
said
loving God
earlier.
hypothesis.
No, I want to go back to the thing you said earlier. You said that like the theistic hypothesis has concerns of being an ad hoc hypothesis, but I don't really think that's the case. So like, and this is kind of a thing that Robin Collins addresses, is that um he gives like a demon and dice analogy. So suppose I were to like roll a dice. So suppose this dice can vary, like similar to that of the cosmological constant. Suppose this dice could vary from 0 to like 100,000, right? And that dice lands on 50,000. Now, some person could walk up to me and say that, like, well, a demon manipulated the dice to land on 50,000, right? And so that might provide pretty good explanatory power, but it's obviously ad hoc, right? It's coming about after observing the phenomenon. But suppose prior to rolling the dice, right, someone were to come up to you and say that, well, someone's going to manipulate the dice to land on 50,000 on this given day. That day comes, you roll a dice and it lands on 50,000. That's going to give much more credence to
Right.
the hypothesis that it's like intentional, right? And
Right.
so it seems to me like if we have antecedent support for theism, antecedent reasons for theism, it's not an ad hoc hypothesis.
You don't. You know, it is ad hoc. You still
Well, no.
because
In the
you
demon and
have
dice
not made a
analogy,
prediction. You have not made a prediction with theism that is novel, right? You have looked around the universe, go, oh look, it's tuned. There must be some loving God behind this. That is completely ad hoc, right? If you had some kind of hypothesis that entailed, some novel prediction being made, something we have not observed yet, but your theistic principles can discover it, that would be evidence. But I'm sorry, you have not made any novel predictions with theism, and we're in the same boat. And just as you posit some kind of loving God, I can posit some natural disposition to life.
I mean, I already addressed this objection, but I want to go back to the what was it that you just said? Well, yeah, like within the demon and dice analogy I just gave, mere advocation is going to constitute as antecedent support, right? And so if you have advocation for theism, which is typically conceived of as like a being who desires embodied moral agents, that's going to be confirmed by something like fine tuning, right? And so it's not an ad hoc hypothesis that's coming about after observing the phenomenon. It's a hypothesis that was supported prior to fine tuning physics. And so it's not an ad hoc
I
hypothesis.
think it is completely ad hoc. You still have not pointed out a symmetry breaker between the natural universe that has a disposition towards life and the universe that was under a loving God. You still haven't shown the symmetry breaker between these two hypotheses.
Well, I'm pretty sure I did. I said that
Where?
it's just as likely that naturals would have a disposition to a dead universe or a disposition to some sort of constant which
The
would
same
permit
applies to
life.
theism. The same applies to theism. We already had to went over this, right? I told you that we can posit a God or a theistic God who didn't tune the universe or didn't make it life permitting.
Right, but the simplest, so like, I think this has come down to our simplest theism. What do you think the simplest theism is? The simplest theism, as many like philosophers would argue, is going to be a theism without arbitrary limits, right? And so if we have a theism without arbitrary limits, it seems like this would pretty much imply or entail some sort of like Swinburnian principle where God would desire embodied moral agents, right? And so it's not like I'm adding a disposition to the theistic hypothesis. This disposition is going to be entailed by the theistic hypothesis, unlike that of naturalism, right? The simplest form of naturalism
Yeah, I
would be a
don't buy
naturalism
that.
that's
I just
random.
don't buy it, right? Because there, I mean, you can be a theist and I think believe in some kind of evil god who would not desire disembodied embodied agents. You know,
All
but
right.
if you're gonna if that's your position, I mean, that's fine. I can grant you that, but it still doesn't, I think, do a good job on disambiguating between from naturalism. Naturalism.
Okay. I don't really think this conversation is going anywhere, but all right. It's been real.
Yeah,
We'll
thank
see you,
you.
Mike.
Appreciate you. See, those that's respect. That's a conversation. Okay, everybody take notes. That's a conversation. We got any more people? What's this guy doing?
Yo, what up, Mike? How's your day, bro?
Bro, what is wrong? What is wrong with you, brother?
This is Mike's evil twin, bro. Anyways, yeah, man, hearing that whole conversation, God, it was honestly just a big waste of my time, to be honest with you. Y'all didn't get anywhere.
We did. Well, for the
No, I
audience, we
don't think
did.
so.
For the audience, we did. I think they liked it. They enjoyed it. But what do you have anything for us today?
Honestly, I was just gonna like kind of go a completely different direction. I was gonna say like, how would you, like, how can we all come to a conclusion if Christians are going to be like, oh, but God is all, he's always been here. He doesn't have a start or end. And then you, atheist, y'all are just going to be like, oh, but the universe has always been here. So how do we come to a conclusion?
We don't. That's the point, right? Theism doesn't get you anywhere new that naturalism can't. That's the point. We don't know.
Exactly. So I think implying that we should have a little bit of faith. Don't you agree?
No, I think that's irrational.
Why do you think faith is irrational? We all have faith.
Because just as you have faith in God, I can have faith in no God.
Yeah, but it doesn't apply the same effect because don't you agree that atheists and theists live completely different lives?
I guess.
I would believe
Why
a
is this
person who
relevant?
believes God is happier, bro.
Well, not necessarily that's the case, but I would say it is the case generally because people who are religious tend to be very oppressive, and when you leave religion, it's very hard, right? People in the Middle East, they can get killed sometimes for leaving Islam. I think that's making us sad.
I agree. I agree.
So don't pretend as if, oh, because I believe in God, that means it's all good and dandy. I think there's a lot of issues with believing in God, especially in a toxic way.
Well, I mean, from everybody that I've like came across, I would say majority of the people that are happy and humble and God fearing and just overall happy in their lives are Christians. And that's just the truth, bro. You can't debunk that.
You're humble, but you pretend you're the center of the universe, and that there's a God who loves us so much that he tuned the universe
I
so that
wouldn't
we
say
could be
I'm the
here.
center of the universe. I would
That's
say
not
God is
humble.
the center of the universe. And
No,
that's also why I said God fearing, because I had a feeling you would say something like
you're
that.
not humble, sir.
I am humble.
You're
If
the only one here pretending as if you know all the answers. That's not humility.
I don't, I haven't even read the full Bible yet. I don't even think I've read a full page of the Bible, to be honest with you. But I believe in God, bro. It's faith. You have faith.
This guy's just a troll. I'm gonna get some water. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, I'm humble, but the universe was made for me. Trust me. I got a book that says it. That's not humility. Humility is when you recognize that you don't have the answer, and you're not going to presuppose things until you have the answer. That's humility. Okay. Come on up if you have questions. Thoughts on Brooks and Dean? It was a shit show. Both of them don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Hello?
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I guess I was like going like through the For You page, and then I noticed that you had that God is imaginary or whatever, and it proved me wrong. So I kind of wanted to, like, I was thinking about it all night, and I was thinking, like, for example, do you know who Magnus Carlsen is?
No.
No? Do you have a Google handy? So Magnus Carlsen is he's a world champion chess player,
Okay.
and he's like top player, and like he's been world champion for like a super long time. And yeah, so were you able to look him up?
Yeah. What about him?
Okay, so like, do you think he's real?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so and you don't think he's imaginary, right? Like it's not coming out of your imagination, or like he's not an imaginary figure or anything like that?
Probably not.
Okay, so you've never met this person, and you've never actually like came to the conclusion physically or scientifically to say that this guy is a real person, not imaginary. So I think like you saying that God is imaginary is like dismissing other people's experiences and other people's is like what they like determine what is reality to them, right? So
Well, look, I agree with you that you shouldn't just dismiss somebody because, you have a motivation to. However, it is not, you cannot make the case that because I think this person's not imaginary when I don't know who he is, that means God exists. First of all, the
no,
evidence
but
is
see, I'm not
there.
I'm
I
not
can search
proving
him.
God's
Hold on.
existence.
Hold on. I can search this person up and I see pictures of him. I see a Wikipedia page. That's evidence that he likely exists, right?
Yeah.
And we can dig further if you are that
But it's to
inquisitive
your
about it.
personal experience, because
Do you see the differences between this and your God? Your God has no photos, no evidence, no Wikipedia page. There's nothing at all for God, right? That's the difference. There's no way you can falsify God.
yeah, but the thing is, like, you literally concluded that he existed based off of a few things. One, me telling you. Two, you doing the action, taking the initiative to actually go and look it on Google, and then seeing photos and making the conclusion, right? So I think people psychologically go through this all the time when they meet God, right? Like in their
Notice
personal
how I said
experience.
likely. Notice how I said likely. He exists. I never said I know for sure. I said likely because of the evidence of his face
Got it.
on Wikipedia. That's a piece of data that is likely to be the case that he exists.
Yeah,
Now,
but
you could be right, I could be wrong, but
yeah,
this still does not give credence to God.
yeah, I'm not, I mean, I'm not here to like prove his existence, but I'm here to disprove your claim that he is imaginary, right? So you can't claim that he's imaginary if people experience him to be real, if that makes sense, right? Because then I can say, oh, that guy's imaginary. I can
Well,
just
when you say I experience God, the problem with experiencing God is that it's not verifiable. There's no way to falsify your experience. People have experiences of all kinds of things that are not God. They don't know what they are, right? Just because I experience something that I don't understand, it doesn't mean it's God or likely to be God. It means that I had experience that I don't understand.
but it's not imaginary though. That's my point. So the thing is like this, you can actually turn around and reverse this, right? Like this whole scenario. For example, that photo could be made up. So you can instead be like, oh, this is probably made up, and you can say, like, it's probably a made up person. There's no possible way, like based off of the evidence, that a single person can beat everybody in the entire world. That's the best chess player in the whole world, right? So you can start pointing out little facts and continuously deny like this Magnus Carlsen's existence, right? And you can continuously be like, well, like I can set up a meeting with you and him and be like, all right, hey,
We
like
can't
this
do
is
this
Magnus.
with God, though. We cannot do that for God. That's precisely the reason
You
why
can deny
God
all
is-
evidence though,
You haven't given me a single piece of evidence for God yet.
because I mean the thing is your experiences, right? You can deny them by your experiences.
What
So,
experience demonstrates God?
so what I don't know what individual experiences are, but if people claim that gods exist and my personal experiences, then we can, you know, like we
Okay,
can
what was
conclude that
your
it's
what was
not
your
imaginary.
how do you know that your experience was God?
Well, I'm more of a like, at least I don't study logic, because last time I talked to somebody and they were like, well, do you know like the, uh, you know, like, are you a, I forget what they're asking me, but like, I'm like, dude, I don't really study logic, but I'm pretty logical type of person, right? So, so the idea is that I concluded it logically based off of like the current like sciences that exist and certain aspects of reality that I've encountered, right?
So what did you encounter?
Or just log. Okay, so like one of like my like primary like understandings is of like, for example, like the first law of thermodynamics. So essentially, like energy cannot be created or destroyed, right? So if energy cannot be created or destroyed, it always existed, right? So theoretically, this you like how you said, like a naturalist point of view, it could already like infinitely be in existence, right? Which makes sense. It's okay. Like, okay, I accept the naturalistic view. But the thing is, energy in classical physics tends to go into a, I forget the word, but it's like a balance, like an equilibrium where it's static, right? So the energy is just a static existence.
Okay, where's God come in?
Oh yeah. So sorry, I was just admiring the faces you make. Uh, so so the idea is that eventually the energy becomes an equilibrium and it's static, right? So technically, there, like, if the existence of the universe was static, that means that there has to be something that like puts it into motion, right? That energy has to have some sort of fluctuation in order to have an imbalance.
Yeah, we can posit naturally some kind of quantum fluctuation. They're literally called quantum fluctuations. That's what causes that to happen.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, like, right now we don't have an understanding of what's causing those quantum fluctuations, right?
Well, there doesn't have to be a cause to these things, right? There's just like there's no cause to God. There's no cause to quantum fluctuations. They are just necessary entities, right? And that's the point. They're necessarily this way. They're brute facts. There's no explanation. They just are. They're the most fundamental thing there is. So there doesn't have to be a God for that. There doesn't have to be somebody doing that.
Yeah,
Thank
makes
you, sir.
sense. I mean, that is definitely a possibility, but again, like, like, I'm just talking to you like in my logical sense of things, right? So like, there's like, I mean, we can continue to go down like my experiences and talk about it and stuff, and like talk about the different things, but my coming here today is because I wanted to disprove your claim of God being imaginary, right? So uh, in order for something to be imaginary, like, it has to be part of your imagination, and you know what I mean? Like, it has to be.
Yeah, that's what it seems to be to me, that you're just imagining this being in your
Okay,
head.
so that's a different premise to you. You see, so you can put God as imaginary to you, which is a completely different premise.
It's the same thing, sir. When I say God's imaginary, that's just my opinion, right? So that's why I get people to come up. By the way, that's a clickbaity title. It's just a word. It's just a title. That doesn't have to mean that's my position necessarily. It's just to get people in. But yeah, thank you for being here. Appreciate you, man.
So I just want to get like a complete understanding and a direct like answer.
Have a good day, man. Okay. What do I prefer, fission or fusion? Well, fusion's way better. But fission's expensive and it gets very little energy from it. Fusion is way better. Knew that old mic would surface. Look, guys, there's a point where you have to just cut off. No disrespect to that person, but at some times, like, it's like a 2-year-old child going yappity yappity. Where's it? Why is the sky blue? Why is the grass green, Daddy? It's like, okay, son, thank you for the questions, but like, sometimes they're just not fruitful. But anybody, look, I'm not an authority here. I don't know everything. Your job is to question yourself and challenge yourself. I'm not here to, be the end all be all of atheism at all. I'm not a spokesperson for atheism. I'm here to make you question. So I did my job, right? Anyway,
Yo,
hi, how are you?
good, good. Are we just a kind of quick question? Are we only down to 3 options? Is it creator, Big Bang, or naturalism?
I don't see the difference between the Big Bang and naturalism, but sure, you can. Those are some of the options. I'm sure there could be more, but what's your point?
I was talking to somebody else, and he was basically disagreeing or saying that naturalism isn't the Big Bang.
Well,
That they don't
naturalism
relate.
is it's not synonymous with the Big Bang, but the Big Bang could, exist, be contained within naturalism. Sure.
Right. Okay. No, I was just curious about that because basically it takes the same amount of faith to believe in the Big Bang as it does to believe in God.
Oh, really? What's the Big Bang?
You tell me. What is the Big Bang? It's an explosion from nothing.
No, that's not the Big Bang. You don't know what it is, right? The Big Bang is not an explosion from nothing. It's an expansion of pre-existing space and time. The Big Bang's happening today still. We're still in the middle of the Big Bang. Because all it means is space and time stretching.
But the expansion basically is an explosion slowed down.
No, it's not an explosion. Right? Expansion is equal in all areas of the universe. Every point in the universe is expanding away from each other. It is not at all an explosion where there's a single point and everything explodes in different accelerated rates. No, this is a very much different thing. There is no single point where everything's expanding from. It's not an explosion at all. It's all the space and time at all points is stretching apart.
From what point though? We don't know.
There is no point it's stretching away from. All points are moving away from each other.
Oh god, I guess
And
I
this
can't
could
just.
go on infinitely into the past and infinitely into the future. We don't know. We don't know what happens before. If there was a start to this, we don't know.
So we don't know if there was even a beginning, basically.
No, we don't. Although there are some hypotheses. There's eternal inflation. There's quantum fluctuations. There's all kinds of ideas we have, but nobody knows for sure.
Got it. Right on. That was it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Always ask questions. If somebody says Big Bang can't be true, ask them what it means and then correct them.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I just had a question for you. Why don't you believe in Allah and His Messenger?
Okay, how old are you?
19 years old,
What year were you born?
2005.
Okay, I don't believe in Allah because there's no evidence for it. So,
Yeah, but if there's no mistakes in the Quran, no contradictions, no inconsistencies, why wouldn't you believe in the book?
well, first of all, there are no Just because I read a book where there's no contradictions, it doesn't make that story true, right? It could be unsound, but valid. Secondly, the Quran gets many things wrong about science. It doesn't even know what science is. It thinks that there's a talking snake or Adam and Eve, Noah's Ark. That stuff never happened. Talking ants or
Yes, but
splitting the moon. That stuff never happened.
that's the point though. Like it's a miracle from Allah. It, even though it goes against science, Allah
That's the
created
claim
science.
they're
Allah
making.
created
There's
everything.
no evidence to that claim.
How?
Show me the evidence that Allah split the moon or whatever.
Allah split the moon. All right, NASA found cracks in the moon. Did you know that?
And what are the cracks from?
The splitting of the moon.
No, they're
What?
not. They're from moonquakes, which happen all the time. There's a crack on the Earth. Does that mean the Earth split in two? No, there's cracks because there's platonics. There's movements in the crust over time.
Yeah, but
On the
what
moon,
does it get?
there's tidal tension on the moon. Earth is pushing and tugging on the moon, causing it to crack in some areas of the crust.
But like, what do you think it gets wrong about science? Like, tell me one thing.
I just named you several things it gets wrong. Right? Adam and Eve never happened. Noah's Ark never happened. Talking snakes never
Adam and
happened.
Eve never happened. What's the proof that it never happened? Since you're
I,
agnostic on Islam, why
Adam and
can't you
Eve?
be? Yeah, yeah.
Because evolution shows there's no first person. Evolution does not point to a first person. It's a
But
population based. It's a generational process. It doesn't
how
happen
can
on
you
an individual basis.
how can you not believe in a creator if like the human body is in such like insane depth? Like everything goes together. Nothing wrong with the human body. Like how could you possibly believe there's no creator?
Oh, nothing's wrong with the human body. Yet we get disease all the time. We get
Yeah, we
diseases,
get
allergies, pneumonia. We choke on our food sometimes. Does that mean God
that's
doesn't exist because we choke on our
that's
food?
no. We still live after you
Then
choke
you
on
can't say
you
it's
choked on.
evidence that we don't choke on our food, right? You can't say
But
that's evidence for God
your blood systems, everything like goes together perfectly. I don't get how you can't believe in a creator. It's
until you get blood
insane. It's
cancer. Until you get
absurd.
blood cancer and you die from blood cancer, right?
I
Look,
didn't say blood cancer. I'm saying like how the body like pumps the blood and it perfectly all goes together in a certain
until you get a
what's it
heart
called?
attack. Until you get a heart attack and
Circulation.
die. Do you
Okay, you
understand?
do get a heart attack. Allah caused that.
Look. I understand you're looking around the world, you're looking at our bodies, and you're going, wow, our bodies are so complex. We have hearts, we have brains, they'll seemingly work together. And you're right, to a degree. They do work together to a degree. But the reason why is not necessarily because a magic man is doing it, but because there's a process called evolution that took place prior to our existence. There's a biological, biochemical phenomenon, a 4 billion year journey that precedes us. Natural selection. That is what caused us to be so complicated and complex.
Yeah, and
And
you
this
learn
explains it perfectly without God, without Allah.
so complex, but the Quran like perfectly states how the
You
hello?
cut out.
I can't hear you. Oh yeah, I hear you. Alright, yeah. So like the Quran perfectly states how like the fetus and the embryo it, like perfectly describes it. Like 1400 years ago it describes how the whole process works. How could that possibly be?
Well, it's not godly knowledge to know how the fetus develops. I mean, have you ever heard of miscarriages?
1400 years ago you wouldn't know?
Do you know what a miscarriage is?
Sorry?
Do you know what a miscarriage is?
Of course I do.
Great. So then you know that women can have miscarriages, enabling them to understand fetal development over time. It's not godly knowledge to know this. But also, what's actually funny, you chewing on
Yep.
food? What's actually funny is that the Quran gets everything wrong when it comes to the embryonic development. It talks about, it doesn't talk about an egg cell at all. It doesn't talk about a sperm cell. It doesn't talk about the fertilization. It doesn't talk about any of that stuff. It talks about a clot, a clot of blood or something. There is no clot that forms and makes a baby happen. That's not true. So you get that entirely wrong. It also says that sperm or semen comes from the rib. It doesn't. It doesn't come from the backbone.
Sorry?
Did you listen to anything I told you, sir?
I got a call, sorry. My bad. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Of course, to somebody who doesn't know about science, of course they're going to say, the Quran is perfect. But once you dig deeper into the science, you're going to recognize how ridiculous it seems to read the book of fables.
Hey, Mike. So, I was just gonna ask, like, I was debating someone that, like, I was just debating someone on, like, determinism. Like, I'm not really, like, a philosopher, right? Because I just don't study it. I was just, like, debating them about, like, free will and stuff. So, to my understanding of free will, it was essentially, like, it would need to have free will, it wouldn't be coherent with determinism. And, like, my understanding of that, it's so difficult to phrase. Because basically, I was getting conflated between like two things. So I thought if you didn't have free will, it was gonna be because of B theory, because everything exists in a simultaneous state. But then someone else said having causality would negate free will in of itself. So I'm just confused on the two things. So why do we draw this
Well,
distinction?
yeah, free will does not necessarily. There's an echo.
Is there an echo?
Having determinism does not entail necessarily the B theory. Because you can have A theory and still not have free will, or determinism.
Yeah.
Just have some kind of like causal order to things. So yeah,
No, that's what I was confused about. Because like when someone, because that's why I thought like under A theory
the
you
B
could
theory.
say
Look, the reason why I bring up the B theory is because
yeah.
a lot of people will say, well, you can't go infinitely into the past. Well, you can, because time doesn't pass.
Yeah, just
Under the B theory, time doesn't pass in the first place.
yeah.
So you're not moving through time to get
Yeah,
to
of
this
course.
moment. So
Yeah, it's not
that's why
everything's
I invoke the B
actualized.
theory.
Yeah, so essentially everything's actualized simultaneously under B theory. But like the thing I was confused about was like people would say under B theory then you wouldn't have free will. So I was getting like confused between the fact that even under A theory because of these causal like sort of causal events you still couldn't have free will essentially.
Yeah, free will. I don't even think free will is coherent.
Well, yeah, that would be well. Oh shit, my bad. Yeah, so wouldn't that just be in the sense that even if you didn't have determinism, if you're like in an indeterminate world, you still wouldn't have free will because you wouldn't have a distinction between the two choices you could essentially make.
Yeah, yeah. It's either you're determined to do it or you are free to do it. You
Yeah, so
can't have it
just
both ways.
all right, that makes sense. All right, thank you, Mike.
Unless you're a compatibilist, which I don't even think is coherent.
Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to say that the proof I have is my barbecue sauce moved. My barbecue sauce moved.
Wow, that was an old one, man. That was like years ago. So, for context, I've been doing these lives for years, right? And a few years ago, when I first started doing this, some guy was like, I asked him, "What's his evidence for God?" And he was like, "My barbecue sauce moved." Oh man, what a day that was. Okay. Um, we have some really great talks before from all kinds of people. Check out my YouTube for more. Anybody else? Serious question. Do you believe in ghosts? I don't know what a ghost is. But no, I don't believe in things I don't understand or have evidence for. So there's no evidence for ghosts, whatever that means. If you're going to talk about the generic understanding of a ghost, right, like a shadowy figure or a moving of a barbecue sauce packet, that I'm sorry, but I think those are not. I think they're explainable through other means. Now there are some cases that we truly can't understand or explain. I'm sure there are cases that we just can't explain, but that doesn't give us the right to say God or ghosts. But I will say that there's a lot of things that are within the realm of possibilities. And I'm open to anything that's possible. I'm open to it. But there's just no evidence. Does this disprove aliens? Well, aliens are very well defined. It's just life on another planet. We know life on one planet is, so it's not too hard to hypothesize life on other planets. So aliens is a vastly different thing. Crystals are useful. Well, yeah, in not in a spiritual way, I don't think, but yeah, crystals. I love looking at rocks and all kinds of crystal structures. I'm waiting for I Showed Speed to join live and help this guy see God's real. Do you think there could be other civilizations out there? Sure, there could be. Oh, we got more guests.
Hey, brother, how's it going?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I just, you know what? That's funny you came on. I just saw one of your videos like earlier today. I forget what you were talking about, and I don't know, I just really resonated with it. I just feel like you have a really nice soul. And what were you talking about? I forget if I don't know if that was you, but what were you talking
No, no,
about?
I don't have psychic powers. I don't know what you were seeing, sir.
Oh, okay. What was your discussion? What were you talking about?
On today's live,
Yeah.
nothing. We're just doing a Q&A. Do you have a
Oh, you're
question?
doing Q&A? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I feel like recently I have been just really starting to like dive deep into um my understanding of reality, my understanding of myself, and like especially on the spiritual aspect of things, right? And so yeah, it's just been everything's just been so confusing and putting together these like visions and blah 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 all these things. And so today I just realized I had a good realization of just bringing in this new earth vision, right, of like letting all these doctrines of religion and spiritual, all these dimensions and all these things they're pushing out. Am I going too far here? Hold on, I'm almost done. But anyways, what I realized is there's just so much freaking misinformation out there and so much shit, and I feel like we just need to just live in the moment and enjoy what life has to offer right here, right now. even if it's something small. And yeah, that's where I was at.
Okay, next.
Yo, what's up, Mike?
Hi, how are you? How can I help you?
Hey, good, good. Hey, man, I was looking at the AI video you made about robots. Mike, please don't let them take over humanity, man. That's all I'm asking for.
Too late. They already did.
Nah, man, you're
Robots,
smart,
computers already run our lives.
but you're smart enough to build the mic. I know you got it, man.
Look, when people envision a world where robots run the world, they think that it's going to be like Terminator. It's not. Computers already run our world, right? It's just that we've adapted to them and we've been accustomed to it for so long, it seems like natural, right? In the future, robots will be the same, right? They're going to take over the world just as they do today, but they're going to be normalized. It's going to be normal to see robots around you. It's getting increasingly that way. So people
Well,
think the future is
I'm
going to be so bad. It's not. We're going to adapt.
I'm fine with that as long as they don't turn evil like in the movie.
The only one evil is us.
Wow. Well, yep. Well, if I do see AI robots, I remember you, and hopefully they don't come and unalive me, man.
They're not going to unalive you. You have a way better chance of being unalived by a person than any robot.
Well, let me ask you this: in what year you think if are they ever gonna build the actual first AI robot that can actually function like properly? You know, like actually like do everything that a human does.
Within 10 years. We already have robots that have 11 to 22 degrees of freedom in their fingers, which means like very similar to what we can do with our hands. And with Tesla's AI system, they're implementing end-to-end neural networks, which means they can learn with videos. So as this exponentially increases, the next 10 years, we're going to see robots that can do everything we can, if not better.
Gotcha. And I guess like the technology is gonna keep on growing and going, so it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's all. Hey, I'm looking forward to your AI videos, man. I really am. Is it gonna be on YouTube, right?
Yeah, they're on YouTube in my TikTok.
Gotcha. I'll check them out.
Great,
But
thank you.
all right.
You guys are
How's
funny.
it going?
Hi, how are you?
So, what created the first atom?
So there was no first atom. There's no such thing as a first atom. We can say that atoms are secondary causes to some fundamental thing, perhaps a quantum field or quantum fluctuations that yield these particles, these higher particles. But there's nobody sitting there going, "All right, let's make the first atom today, buddy. All right, get the materials, get the electrons." Okay, there's nobody doing that, right? There's a natural reason for these things, in my view.
Well then, what's the most natural? What do you mean by natural?
Unintended, indifferent, just stuff, material.
So there's no way that it's like a one in a billions of chances that we're here. It's insane. Like
How did you
that's
calculate the chance of us being here versus not being here? How did you calculate that?
and also the fine tuning. We're perfectly fine tuned.
You're not going to just steamroll, right? Look, how do you know? You said something very peculiar. You said the chance of us being here is 1 in a billion. How did you figure that out? And why is this relevant?
Oh, it really is one in a billion. Everything had
How
to go
did you
perfect. Look at all the
how
other
did you
failed
determine that?
planets. Look at all the other failed planets.
The what?
How is Earth? There's not another failed planet like Mars or Pluto.
I agree. Earth is a rare phenomenon as far as we can see, but it doesn't mean that God did it, right? if you're talking about the entire universe, well, there are countless other Earths out there. There's countless other Earth-like planets. We're not the only one for sure. But the universe itself, it might be the case that it's necessary. Perhaps this is the only universe. So the chance of us being here is 100%, one of one. We don't know.
That doesn't make you think? Come on. There's got to be something.
Okay,
Okay.
then there's got to be, let's say God exists. Where did God come from? There's got to be something that made God.
Well, we have no answer. We'll get to that answer one day when
Exactly.
we
We
get
don't
heaven.
have an answer. So then why do you just say God did it? Why not just stop at the universe? Why do you add an extra step?
Does it ever just drive you crazy about why you're here? What could have ever put you here?
No, it doesn't, because I recognize that those questions are bad. See, some questions are bad. Why are we here? Why do we exist? Maybe there is no why, right? Maybe things just are, and there's no reason, right? They're brute facts that we just have to, come to grips with. The universe does not owe us an explanation.
So we came from monkeys, right? Why don't we have buttholes like baboons?
We're not monkeys. We're apes. We're great apes. And we
So
do have buttholes like baboons. We do. We have very
Just-
similar structured butts.
they're not big and red.
So is your mom's.
Wow. Well, that was out of line. Okay. So why are sea animals way older than land animals?
Because life began in the oceans about
Because of the flood.
a million years ago. And the oceans are more protective because out in the air you have UV, you have predators, you have all kinds of nasty things out in the open. It's also harder to adapt. There's less nutrients available to you. Right? In the oceans, you have tons of sea life that's dead life. You have coral reefs, all kinds of things that allow you to get more nutrients. That's why life tends to be in the oceans.
So what do you think happens? So, okay, there's also things that went extinct in the ocean too. Why would that happen?
Stick to the ocean?
Extinct while in the ocean.
Extinct? Yeah,
You
life
think
evolves.
because when the
Extinction is
flood
evolved.
mixed salt and fresh water, a lot of things had to go extinct because of that, but some of them survived.
Yeah, it's called evolution.
Or the flood.
The flood? No, there was no flood in the last 6,000 years.
So that's why do you think Pangea split off?
Plate tectonics.
Which probably caused the flood.
No, they don't cause floods. They actually cause continents to form or form mountains. They don't. They the opposite of floods.
So is that why? Yeah, because look, there's fish bones on Mount Everest.
Do you know why?
Noah's flood.
No. Fish fossils are deposited in low-lying areas where there's water. You're correct, but you have to recognize that plates can smash into each other. They collide. So two plates, tectonic plates, they come closer and closer over time. What they collide, and what happens? Enough pressure builds, and they move up like this and turned into mountains, right? So those fossils that were once low-lying areas are now up top.
Yo, you should debate this guy named Vor.
I did. I already made him cry.
Oh, missed it.
It's on YouTube. You can watch him cry.
Oh wait, you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go watch it. It was nice meeting you.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
How you doing, Mark?
Hi, how can I help you?
Yeah. So you know how you don't believe in God, right?
Correct.
can you explain like why do we as human beings, like why do we conceptualize that? Like, why do we think there's a creator, but animals don't think that? You know what I mean?
Well, it has to do with psychology. Humans have been around for a long time, and we have had language for a long time. And with language comes stories. You talk to people, you conceptualize things when you have language. It comes from the prefrontal cortex of the brain, right? So our brains can generate concepts and generate stories. So for the longest time, we've been passing down stories generationally. And a little bit of imagination, along with stories, comes with these ideas. Now, the idea of a creator, a singular creator, is brand new to humans, the human species. For the longest time, it was animism, the idea that animals were somehow special or spiritual, or had souls. Then it came to the earth gods, right? There was a god for everything. The earth was personified. It was the air gods, the fire gods, the thunder gods, the rain gods. We assign gods to every natural phenomenon. Why? Because of our imaginative powers, as well as our want to personify things to make them comfortable for us to understand. We had no idea how these things worked 1,000, 10,000 years ago. We made up stories to explain them. And those stories evolved, and hence gods evolved. Right? We went from animism to polytheism to monotheism. It took time.
Okay, yeah, no, that's an interesting. And one more question, just to tie back to the one other dude talking about AI. When you look at an AI robot, you assume that somebody made that. So why can't you assume when you look at a human being that somebody created that? You know what I mean?
It's very natural to look at our human body and say, wow, it's so complex, somebody designed it. The issue is, we can look at counterexamples in nature and go, the clouds or volcanoes. Is there a designer behind the clouds? No, there's just, evaporation and condensation. So we recognize that there are some examples that don't require somebody to make them. And that's why we can do this for humans. Furthermore, we have an explanation as to why we're complex. It's called natural selection. Billions of years of small changes add up to big changes over time. That's why we're so complicated. Natural selection. Small changes over long periods of time.
Okay. And one more question, but if you don't mind when I ask you this question, can you give me your honest feedback?
Okay.
Do you genuinely feel at peace when you go to sleep every night? Like you don't feel fear, you don't feel like scared or anything like that.
Absolutely. I am extremely peaceful. I'm extremely happy and content with my existence. Why? Because I don't expect so many things. I don't expect there to be an afterlife. I don't expect a God to listen to me. I don't expect anything. I live and I enjoy my life as it is. And if I die, I die, but I enjoy my life.
But
I
Mike, do you feel
appreciate life
that?
every day, even if there is no God. Whether there's not a God, I don't care. What matters to me most is that I'm alive and I'm sharing this world with other people. That's it. That's all that matters to me. Everything else is fluff.
But in a world where everybody keep talking about God and believing in God, does that affect your mental health or anything like do you feel scared?
Nothing scares me except for willful ignorance. When people willfully are ignorant about something, they willfully don't listen, they willfully don't care about the evidence. That's what scares me. Because people have power and you can be irresponsible with your power and cause negative things to happen. So I care. I fear a world where nobody cares about information that's correct, or nobody verifies their information. That's what I fear the most.
Okay, but you don't ever like think to yourself like, what if God was true and I did die? Like you don't ever like think about that kind of stuff.
Sometimes, but again, I'm very content with what I have right now because whether or not God exists, I will not change. If I died tomorrow and went to hell or heaven, I wouldn't. I would just be. I'd be like, hey, I was honest in my life. I honestly didn't see evidence for you, God. So if you're going to send me to hell for this, that's unfair. And I'm going to tell it to his face. And that's it. I have enough integrity and dignity to not just go, okay, God, you're going to send me to hell. Thank you. I'm so sorry for being honest. Send me to hell. I'm not going to change just because your God has an authority over me. I will never change who I am, whether or not God exists. So I'm content.
You know, low key though, that's actually respectable because I could see like on Judgment Day, God could actually read your intention. He said, "Yo, for Mike, the evidence wasn't sufficient enough for him." So you know what I mean? I actually respect that though, for
Yeah,
real.
that's what I'm saying, right? If God really loves us, why would he punish us for being honest?
Yeah, because like for different people, it take different evidence. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
respect that, Mike. I like that. I respect that answer though. I like that, man. I appreciate your feedback though. I appreciate you.
Okay, great. Have a good
Have a
day.
good night, Mike.
Hey, what's up?
Hi, how can I help you?
Alright, so you're atheist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, have you seen evidence in the Quran? Have you
How
read
old are you? How old are you?
51 backwards?
Thank you for the gifts, guys. Thank you.
Vote Brent Peterson for president. Please and thank you.
I'm not trying to debate. All I wanted to say is when I was watching your videos, you made evolution and stuff like that make a lot more sense. And I just wanted to say I appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
How you doing?
Hey, how can I help you?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a question. So, why don't you believe in God?
There's no evidence.
So, you mean that the Bible is not enough for you as a evidence?
A story of fables? Not going to cut it for me.
Okay. So, uh, all right. So everything you know, like the evolution and everything that you spoke about, do you have evidence for that?
Yeah, absolutely. We have fossil record evidence. We have lab experiments, DNA sequencing, lab experiments with E. coli and bacteria. We can see their speciation over time. We have tons of evidence for evolution.
But who shows that?
I just explained to you the fossil
I
record,
think
how
we
all
as
these skeletal structures. What?
yeah, I understand, but like someone has to show that evidence, right? like someone like you, like a person. So how?
Yeah,
Why do you
we
believe
we
that
have
person
the
though?
fossil. Look, we can dig up
Like
fossils
why
from
do
the
you believe
ground.
that person?
We don't just believe scientists; they demonstrate their work, right? The experiments are falsifiable. We can and repeatable, right? We can always like if a scientist says something, we don't just take the word for it. A scientist displays the methodology, they display the evidence, they show their work, and we can test their work. And if we're skeptical, we can show them wrong, right? But that's what science is all about. It's about proving them people wrong, and the best idea wins. And evolution is the best idea we have. It's what explains everything we see about the biodiversity of life. We can dig up fossils and look at their structural changes over time. We can look at our DNA sequencing. We can see fusions of our chromosomes. We can see genetic mutations, insertions, deletions of specific genes. This is unexplainable without evolution.
Okay, I kind of get what you not kind of get. I get what you're saying. Because I know evidence is the key for someone to believe in something. I understand that, but I feel like those people who did it, there has to be something, or like some kind of supernatural that gave them like that intelligence to do those stuff. Don't you believe that?
No, why?
So okay, if someone is smart enough, or if someone has a lot of intelligence, don't you believe that that came from somewhere? Like they don't just have it like that.
Evolution explains it.
It comes
Evolution
somewhere,
explains it.
right?
Evolution explains it. Evolution explains it. So look, go learn evolution, right? I'm not trying to be disrespectful here, but you have to go learn, right? Go learn the science. I cannot hold your hand every step of the way and teach you science. It's your job. It's your responsibility to learn. Do it. Hmm. Hmm. Any other questions? I didn't reject it.
Hello.
Hi.
Um, is this argument about proving the existence of God? Yes or no? Because I can't see the title.
It's just a Q&A. Do you have a question?
No, I want to prove the existence of God.
Okay, go ahead. Let's hear it.
Okay, so everything that exists in the universe is composed of act and potency, and the first mover of these things must be something that's pure act. That thing is called God.
Yeah, that's a very cute idea, but it's nonsense. So, we don't have to we don't have to accept that at all. We can hypothesize a naturalistic universe in which everything already is actualized and there is no first mover. Everything's nothing is absolutely moving under the B theory of time. So we don't have to accept this first mover nonsense at all.
Okay, so for one, you're just creating a sophistic argument that denies change, but you already presuppose the existence of change in your argument because you have to change my mind to for me to assent
No,
to your
so
theology.
change would exist as an emergent phenomenon, not a fundamental phenomenon. There's a difference, right? So change is not fundamental to the universe. The universe itself does not change. Nothing absolutely changes. Change is perceptual. So
Yeah,
that's the point.
yeah. So when you say that change is perceptual, or when you say that change is emergent, that presupposes something within the ontological status of being, or the beings in this universe, that causes that emergent property. This is very evident in how we understand science.
No,
Anything that brings about an emergent property
you don't need
has
change for that. You don't need a fundamental, uh, you know, thing to
well, you don't
cause that
need
to happen.
change. You don't need change to explain change, but you need something within the metaphysical framework of what explains why that being brings about something that even looks like change. And that thing would be because it's limited. So the reason why you change from X to Y, even perceptually, is because you're limited in structure. And that limitation would come from some positive ontological principle. It wouldn't come from yourself because it's your negation. And it won't come from non being because non being is
Okay.
nothing. So that positive thing is potency. So even then, that
Yeah,
critique doesn't apply.
I don't see how this gets to God. We don't we can posit some eternal quantum state that's unchanging. It doesn't change at all fundamentally. The emergence
But
of things are just descriptions. And
every quantum,
in that
so
case, you don't need God. You don't need God at all.
okay, so forget about God for now. Let's just talk about the fundamental um a posteriori premise that is set about motion. Even if you agree to motion, then a quantum state would not get you out of the argument because quantum states are necessarily in motion.
No, they're not.
Quantum state,
No, they're not.
a
Quantum states
quantum
are
state.
not necessarily moving. No.
Okay, what do you think I mean by motion? Because you might think I mean something else.
Change through time.
Change through time.
Change in coordinates within the universe through time.
Change in coordinates. I mean, I wouldn't agree because something might not, but that would be me presupposing my theological view. But some things can be in motion without coordinates. But I was gonna say that all for me, motion is just the reduction of potency to act. And quantum states definitely reduce potency to act. Like you can talk about the quantum entanglement, for
No,
example.
we can that's what I was just kind of to say. We can explain this through superposition. Everything already is actualized. All possible states already are actualized.
No, that's not even so in quantum entanglement, my understanding of it is when you have a particle in one specific coordinate and this particle changes, whether it's perceptual or not, the other particle that is in some way connected to it, I don't know, by whatever interpretation you take from that, is also changing. But that change also presupposes a notion of potency. You can't explain that change without any emotion whatsoever. If there was no motion, there'd be no change.
In entanglement, there's no change actually happening. In entanglement, they're actually the same objects. They share the same wave functions. So, yeah, entanglement has nothing to do with it. I was talking about superposition. Do you know what that means?
Yeah. So for the quantum
What's
entanglement,
superposition?
sorry, I just wanted to get back to what you said before.
You don't know what it is?
You
don't know what it is?
I just wanted to get back to what you said before.
It's okay. Look, it's okay if you don't know what it is. Just tell me. Do you know what superposition means?
You don't. Okay, so the what was I going to say? So the quantum entanglement of the two particles, as I was going to explain again, as Arvin Ash gives his own interpretation of it. Yes, there's no change, and the reason why I want to stick on this point is because if I move to another point, I'm not going to be able to state my argument. So the reason why I don't think what you're saying is correct is because even if you don't say there's no change in the particle, which to me is ridiculous because there's obviously a change in the angular momentum of the particle, but even if you say that there's no change in the particle, there's still going to be a change in the field. So Arvin Ash in a YouTube video, I think like
there's no
2 years
change in the
ago.
field.
Okay, so if there's no change in the field, why?
That assumes one quantum interpretation. There are many others.
Yeah, I
The
know.
Everett's interpretation does not suppose that there are changes in the function. The wave function never collapses at all, and all possible states exist in a superposition,
Yeah,
meaning that they're
so
all actualized.
yeah, so when you said
Motion, no change.
sorry, when you said note this, you're already presupposing your interpretation. So I said that you can take Arvin Ash's interpretation. You know physics. I'm pretty sure you know who that is. He's a very popular YouTuber.
Yeah.
He takes the idea that the space time. What I don't think. I think he's trying to say that the quantum field, at some coordinate of the quantum field, changes so that the angular momentum of one particle changes at the change of the other particle because they're connected to that field. So when you say no, as if it's a fact, you're just saying no because I take this interpretation apart
That's
from
one
this.
interpretation. Again, we don't have to hold to any particular interpretation, especially not
So
yours.
then I don't
We
have
can
to agree with you when you
the
say
point
no.
is that we can logically posit a notion of a universe in which it doesn't fundamentally change. Period. You never have to assert a god.
Yeah, so now I'm going to ask you, in that quantum entanglement, when the other particle's angular momentum shifts to a different state, how are you going to explain that if it never actually changed?
Superposition. Do you know? That's why I asked you what it means. You don't know what it means.
Okay, so what's your notion of superposition again? Because my understanding of superposition doesn't deny change.
Okay. Do you know what superposition means?
Quantum superposition. Well, I don't know the strict definition of it. I just have a vague understanding. I can't lie to you. So can you tell me?
Thanks for being honest, at least. So when a particular particle or quantum state embodies all possible states at one time, simultaneously, right? It shares multiple states at one time. And
Wait, what did
if
you say?
that's the
Sorry?
case,
Sorry?
what?
What did you say? Wait, what did you say again?
It's a quantum state which embodies all possible quantum states at one time simultaneously, right? So, for example, a particle could exist in multiple states at one time, upstate, downstate, simultaneously. It's a phasing probability. It's a probability cloud, and that's exactly what quantum
what's the name of
mechanics
that guy?
implies.
What's the name of the quantum physicist that brought that up? The cat guy. What's his name? Sorry, can you remind me?
Schrodinger.
Yes, Schrodinger. Okay, you're talking about that. Yeah, but how does this deny change? Sorry, you trying to say that everything's in a superposition?
Because everything already exists. All possible states already exist. They're embodied by this singular quantum state for perhaps the entire universe. The entire universe could have a single quantum state which embodies everything else, and everything already is. Everything that exists is actualized. There is no potentiality to actuality. It's already actualized.
Wait, even if you say on a quantum level that all these particles in a superposition or whatever, I really don't see how this denies any actualization of potency. You could still say that the cat is because when you said superposition, there's different understandings of that interpretation of what the quantum superposition is.
Schrodinger.
But,
All Schrodinger did was assign a probability, a wave probability statement.
A wave probability function to a phenomenon.
That's all he did. He did not talk about all the other interpretations. Right?
Yeah.
There's several different quantum mechanical interpretations which allow for things to not have any change occur necessarily, right? Change being emergent. This would be Everett's interpretation, where the wave function never collapses. The wave function never changes under the Everett's interpretation. Do you understand what that means?
When the wave, okay, so let's go back because you're kind of flooding my head with information. Sorry, it's 5 a.m. over here as well. When the wave, so if you say that every particle in the quantum system, right, has what would you say, a superposition, and that transcends to the fundamental molecular level of everything that exists in the universe, and everything that exists in the universe has a quantum superposition, and it's just probabilistic and it's just random, then would have no way to explain why things that occur on a fundamental level is not random, but in the particles it is random. Whereas we would just say, the Thomists or the Aristotelians, that even on the quantum level, the particles have a teleology in which is actualized by some potency that was not rendered to it. So just because your interpretation, you have a different interpretation, but I think my interpretation matches more with the fundamental status of the universe.
No, because you're postulating something that is not required for quantum mechanics to hold. Again, there are certain interpretations where there is no potentiality to actuality. Again, I don't think you understand quite what superposition means.
Yeah, no,
Wave
but in
function,
epistem,
the wave function
go
never
on, sorry.
changes. Like the wave function never changes under the Everest interpretation. All possible states already exist, and
Yeah,
there
so
is
that's
no
one
there.
interpretation.
Yes. So
Sorry.
do you agree that it's valid?
Uh, I don't think it's as valid as my interpretation, but sorry, in
There's no
epistem,
such thing as more valid or less valid. It's either valid or not, right? So
I disagree. I think something can be more valid than something else, but um sorry, I want to say something. I'm not trying to be rude as well. I was gonna say
I think
something.
you're talking about soundness. Soundness can vary in degree, but not
You said
validity.
soundness?
Yeah, soundness can vary in degrees.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna bring that up. So yeah, in epistemology, there's different like advantages that you can take. You could take parsimony, you could take explanation. And I think we have more like explanatory power to the fundamental status of things that exist in the universe. Like for example, I don't know why anything that occurs here is not random, but on a quantum level, you'd want to say that it's random. Whereas I could say that on a quantum level, like it, there's this end that the particles exist for, which is actualized by its potency by some other contingent factors.
Well, so
And then me and you are
first of
just
all,
going to
when you say
disagree on
hold on,
interpretation.
when you say randomness, quantum mechanics does not necessarily entail that it's random.
But some interpretations take that
There
view,
could
of
be a
course. Yeah.
deterministic nature to quantum behaviors. So I don't know why you're invoking this randomness thing, right?
So we're talking
I
about.
also don't see where theism grants you any more explanatory power over naturalism.
We're not talking about. So we're not even talking about atheism. We're just talking about the interpretation of this very quantum phenomenon. So yeah, when you said, sorry, you said something. Yeah. I'm just talking about different interpretations. So I didn't say you have to think it's random. But obviously, if you think that the superposition is literally like everything that exists in the universe right now is just like in a superposition where things can be actualized for no reason, right? So there's no inherent potency in anything. Well, then it would definitely entail randomness, because if there is some explanation as to why this happens over this, then there has to be some metaphysical explanation. That metaphysical explanation will be
Yeah,
accounted for its potency.
look. We could say that there's a deterministic reason as to why certain particles exist in certain ways. We
So
don't
then
have to
there's a
resort to just pure
deterministic.
randomness.
Okay, sorry. So there's a deterministic reason on a fundamental level between me and you, but there's just like an indeterministic reason in the particle level.
Yeah, you can say that. I don't. I think everything is determined. I think hard determinism is true, but I don't see why there's an issue with that either.
Okay, so let's go with what you think, because I think that there's an issue with that. I wouldn't want to separate two like metaphysical levels for literally no reason. Makes no sense. Why would the particles be indeterminate and then me and you and everything is determinate? That makes no sense. But I think your view kind of makes a bit more sense than that view. So your view is that even the particles at a superpositional level is determined, correct? Like the angular momentum.
I personally think that everything's determined, but this is not even relevant to this topic. But sure, go ahead. What's your point?
I would say it's a bit relevant to the topic, because if the angular momentum of these quantum particles are determined to shift its position from X to Y, then that wouldn't negate my notion of potency, because you could just say that motion is determined. So there's really no argument against my position.
Well, there is, because you're question begging there. You're question begging the notion of movement through time in these particles. When again, what undermines all this would be the B theory, which quantum mechanics is perfectly compatible with the B theory, which there is no motion of particles through time. Particles don't even exist in the quantum level, right? We're talking about fields. We don't even talk about particles. So, and these fields again would all be embodied by a singular quantum state. and in that sense, it is unchanging and eternal and necessary. So, it would not necessarily an objection to your view, but both of us are at a standstill, right? You just posit one extra thing than mine. I would argue that yours is less parsimonious, but there's nothing invalid about this position I'm holding.
So when you say that mine is less parsimonious, I've already explained how you can account for a reason why these particles in the quantum level change from one particular coordinate system to another particular coordinate system, under my view. Whereas like an indeterminate view
Why do you
wouldn't be
keep
able to
saying that?
explain that.
They're not changing. Why do you keep saying that? They're not changing.
Because the angular momentum of another particle obviously changes its position. The change for me is
That
just
would
the
be
depth.
perceptual. Like that would be still perceptual, right? You're still not recognizing the difference.
But
The perceptual
so
change in the
is
fundamental.
it sorry, is it perceptual in your view? Because you just said you was a determinist.
Yeah,
How can
perceptions
you?
can still exist deterministically.
Yeah, but what? So you're saying that the motion of everything in the world is determined, but it's still just perceptual.
It's
So it's
relative.
only
So
sorry. So it's only perceptually determined then.
when we say perceptual, I mean relative, right? Everything in the
You mean
universe,
what? Sorry.
nothing in the universe necessarily has to move. Nothing's moving. In fact, everything in relativity is moving at the same constant rate throughout the universe. What we perceive as motion is just changes in our geodesics, changes in our
Wait,
trajectory.
sorry. In your sorry to cut you off. In your view of time, what would the present be?
The present is just one coordinate of the universe.
If the president is one, is the president? So sorry, I said the president. Sorry, it's 5 a.m. over here. But if the present is just one coordinate of the universe, is that coordinate indivisible? Because when I say the present, I mean like the now.
Yeah, again, there are, you can slice up now moments as slices in this larger universe. And under B theory, we can look at the 4D block model where everything already exists, all time exists, and each present moment is a slice of that larger structure, four-dimensionally. So
I wouldn't see how you can slice up something that's indivisible. Like when I think of now,
well, it's just
now,
mathematical. It's just a mathematical analogy, right? I'm not saying that time is a physical thing.
oh no, I agree with you, obviously.
Okay. Great. So
I
what's
would
your
say that
connection?
time is the continuum of the visible parts. But like when I say divisible, even like conceptually or like logically, I would say that now is still like indivisible. When I say now, you can't slice it into before, after, and in your theory of time, now would be stretched
Now
towards.
depends. Look, my now moment could be different than somebody else's now moment, and this is demonstrated by relativity. We can do you know what time dilation is?
Yeah, I know. So your
Everybody's now
now
moment is
moment,
different. That's why our now moment is completely perceptual, and it changes based on your velocity through space, based on your gravity fields. It
I
all
know, but
depends on your coordinates. That's what gives us
we're talking about
now.
we're talking about the fundamental notion. We're talking about the fundamental notion of time. We're not just talking about like the relative,
Right.
or
Yeah.
like
In
the
my view,
conceptual
time is
notion
just
of
another
time.
dimension. Time, in my view, is just another dimension of the universe. It's four-dimensional. But
Yeah, that's not just your view. That's the common physical view.
okay.
Time being four-dimensional and breaking down in the third dimension into different simultaneous parts. But the reason why I don't really subscribe to B theory is because if the present, the now, is fundamentally indivisible, not just like relatively indivisible, something can't be relatively indivisible. You can perceive time to be indifferent. Like, here's my thing with
No,
physicists, right?
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Relativity is not the full picture, right?
Yeah.
There could be a more fundamental phenomenon that explains this, perhaps quantum mechanically. There's a
Yeah.
holographic principle too, which also could fit into this picture, where
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a lower dimensional reality that kind of like holographically gives us the sense of time.
Mhm.
And there's just really, really crazy things. But the point is that there's nothing under your view that does any better job than naturalism. And this is really all I care about, right?
I think the reason why I'm arguing against this is because you reject my view of motion, And I think it's just very obvious to
I don't reject it.
yeah,
I'm not necessarily rejecting it. I'm just saying we don't have to accept it. We don't have to accept that. I mean, there could be atheists who accept your view, but I just don't have to.
yeah. Okay, so maybe I should give you an argument as to why you would want to accept acting potency then. I like the conversation that we're having. I'm not really a physicist type of guy, but yeah, I like the conversation we're having. According to me, in my view, like when I study being, there's two ways that being can go. So it can go infinite and it can go finite. And we have to explain what finite being is. So finite being would just be limited, and infinite being would be unlimited. But a finite being is limited. It's going to be limited by two things. It's going to be limited by its existence. It's going to have its existence, sorry, and its existence is going to be limited by some positive ontological principle. That ontological principle cannot come from itself because it's its negation, the same way that darkness cannot come from light. And it cannot come from non-being because non-being is nothing. So that positive principle.
This is where I'm losing, and this is where this is getting ridiculous. Nothingness, existence. These are really these are ambiguous terms. They're very ill-defined.
It's called metaphysics.
It's a true concept.
Okay, so in metaphysics, we study how being and existence works in their relation to objects. So I'm just talking to you about the fundamental.
But this is where you start getting into the philosophy part of it, and now you're losing the scientific aspect of it, right? You're.
I never came here to argue
You're no longer
science.
being grounded in the scientific world. Okay, great. So then, if you're going to make scientific claims about like existence, well, that requires some scientific evidence.
Sorry, metaphysics is a science. So, like, metaphysics is the
No, it's a
fundamental.
philosophy. It's philosophical.
Metaphysics is a science. So, Aristotle defines science as a different perspective in how you can infuse knowledge into the intellect. So there's different types of sciences. Even politics is a science, according to Aristotle. I'm an Aristotelian. I came up here to talk about
Yeah, I just
philosophy.
don't agree with that definition. That's all. But look, this is just semantics. Like
Yeah.
my main point is there's nothing under theism that grants God any more credence.
We're not talking about theism. Okay, so we're not talking about theism.
Okay, well,
I'm
that's
talking about
that's really what I care about. Like, this is great. I like the conversation, but it's not going anywhere because all I care about is what's the truth. What grants us? What gets us more likely to that God's true?
Before I get to the nature of God, you have to agree with my fundamental metaphysical understanding of some particular things. I can't just say, yo, God exists here.
I
And at
understand
first,
that. I understand that, but I'm still not. I don't agree with your definitions of nothing. I don't think nothingness is a coherent concept. I don't think existence is coherent either. We don't have a good definition for it.
I would disagree with that. But on the second part, what I wanted to say before is, I never came here to argue physics with you. So you brought it into the realm of physics, and I had to go with you on that. So when you said I lost to the physics, I never argued with physics with you. Now I'm talking about metaphysics. I'm a metaphysician. That's my field, and I study metaphysics. And we're talking about the fundamental nature of a finite being. And you still haven't really like rebutted my point. So when you say that you don't have a good reason to answer my to accept my critique, you're not really like rebutting my critique. So you don't have a reason at all to reject or accept it. So there's no point. Because I just gave you what I think the finite being is, the nature of a finite being, and you haven't told me, oh, you're wrong here, you're wrong here. So I don't really see it.
Well, when you say limited, when you say these are very ambiguous words, like limited, what do you mean by limited? Limited by what, right? There's
Limited
clearly a reference frame. When you say something's limited relative to what, right?
So
and that's
yeah,
the contention.
I just said what it's limited by. So I said it's limited by some positive ontological principle. Ontology just means being. So that positive ontological principle is going to be its potency. That's what I said. The reason why it's going to be its potency.
And that's where I disagree. This is where we disagree. Right? Potency.
Yeah. So why do
actuality? I don't see why there has to be this dichotomy. I think that it's a false dichotomy.
Okay, so I just told you why you would have this potency principle, because the limitation of that finite being cannot come from the being itself, because limitations is the being's negation. The same way that darkness cannot come from light, and it cannot come from nothing or non-being. So it has to come from some other positive
I think
principle.
you're just you're question begging the first way. I think that's all you're doing. You're
I'm really
assuming that the
just
first way holds, right? You think you're just assuming that for the sake of the argument.
I don't really think
I don't have to.
you
Look, do you
you're not
understand? Do you understand that I could hold the view that everything's actualized, and I don't need to. I don't need to hold to this potency thing. You understand?
okay. So okay. Sorry. I want to get something straight. Sorry. I can't be question begging the first way because this that I'm talking about is what I need you to accept in order for you to accept the first way. So I'm not question begging the first way.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
trying to explain to you or prove to you a metaphysical principle that has been founded 2,000 years ago by Aristotle. And all I want to explain to you is the nature of a finite being. Now, if you say that everything that exists in the world would be fully actualized, you wouldn't be critiquing my notion of finite being because everything that exists in the world is obviously finite. So you have to critique why I cannot accept this potency principle in a finite being by explaining to me how something can have restrictions and that restriction would not be its potency. Because if you say everything is actualized, you're just restating that you think everything is finite. And then you're just not really attacking my argument at that point. That's the problem that I have.
Yeah, I don't see why.
Yeah.
I don't see why we have to, accept this potency thing.
Yeah. So can you explain why?
You can try one more time. But I'm getting tired, brother. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Everything that exists in the universe is finite. And because it is finite things are restricted in their nature by some positive I'm trying to make it some positive principle. So like something that really exists positively and is a principle of something, some source. The source cannot come from itself because it's its negation, it's its opposite. The same way that darkness cannot come from light. And it cannot come from non-being or nothingness. So it has to come from some other positive principle, which is not itself. And that principle is what has potency.
We can just say like the universe. We can describe the universe as being the source, and the universe as being some kind of like quantum state, which grounds all other emergent phenomenon from it. So
well, then you
don't have
just
to posit
agree
that.
with me. You would just agree with me that
No, for the sake of we can grant you that premise for the sake of the argument, and I can posit some natural entity that explains it just as fine.
Yeah, well, that's calm. But you just agree with my notion of motion then.
I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't. I'm just saying if we wanted to grant you
I'm
that
not saying that
we could posit some natural phenomenon that explains it just as well.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that the potency.
I don't agree with you. I still don't agree with you about this potency thing. I think that everything already is actualized, and you have not refuted that.
Why did you say that the source of the potency comes from the universe if you don't agree that there's potency in things? What?
I said we can just say that, right?
What are you saying?
We can. There's different interpretations that we can have about this.
But what's yours?
I could say that the potency is grounded in the universe. I could also say that everything is actualized, grounded by the universe.
You wouldn't be attacking my argument. So wait, what's yours again? Are you saying to me right now with the argument that I presented to you that the universe is the source of this potency? Or are you like just,
Again, I don't think you listened to what I told you. Right?
I know. I just want you to like
everything would be.
opinion.
Look, we can view the universe as one entity, and it would be the quantum state in which everything's actualized. Right? It's just one entity, one structure. That's one view. That's the particular view I hold. The other view, you're question begging. I think this idea of potency.
I can't.
We don't have to accept it. Even if we did accept it, we can just say that there's potency grounded by the universe.
I'm giving you like a deductive argument to show you how a finite being is necessarily composed of act and potency. And the reason why I did this is because when I give people the first way, they typically always disagree with the notion of act and potency. So I'm giving you the reason why finite beings is necessarily composed of act and potency. And if you say that everything in the universe is actualized, you're not really attacking my argument. You're just saying, oh, like I'm trying to show you that 1 + 1 is 2. Oh yeah, but 2 + 2 could be 4, but that does not attack. 2 + 2 could be 5, but that does not attack the reason why I think that 1 + 1 is 2. Can you attack why I think
You're not
1 + 1?
attacking my view either, right? So I don't see what
I'm here to prove something to you. So it's like,
you have all you're trying to do is steamroll your view. I am showing you no, there's other possibilities. You're just going no, no, no. Let me show you my view.
no, but you asked me to give you a proof. I gave you a proof of why I think that finite being is necessarily composed of act and potency.
You didn't give me
You have
proof
not
of
really.
anything. You didn't give me proof of anything.
There can be proof of anything.
No, I said you didn't give me proof of anything.
Oh, so a metaphysical proof is different from a scientific or
I know that, sir. You still didn't give me any logical proof for what you've asserted.
Okay, so why do you think that? That's exactly what I want to ask you. Because just to get one thing straight, Mike. If you say, oh, there's this other interpretation that I can go, that does not mean that my logical proof is not valid logically.
I agree.
So
But
okay,
just
so when you
because
said
you
I
have a
didn't,
valid point doesn't make it true. Doesn't make
wait,
it
but
sound.
you said I didn't give you logical proof. So can you show me the logical flaw of my argument?
I'm saying even if you had a valid point, it wouldn't make you correct or sound.
Okay, so I understand that.
Okay, great.
Right?
So go
So
ahead.
you already
Go ahead and demonstrate that your view is more correct
okay, so
than mine.
sorry. So you do agree that I gave a logical argument then?
No, I still don't think you did.
Okay, why? That's what I'm asking you.
Because you've simply made assertions about this potency thing, and you've inserted these weird definitions that I think are ill-defined about nothingness and existence, which
Okay,
I
what?
don't think we can even assess yet.
Okay, so that doesn't. No, okay, now that I've given you my argument, is there any definition or anything that you want to identify in the argument that you think is wrong, so I can explain to you, so we can get further in the conversation, so we can have a good convo?
Yeah, when you say there's a positive ontological status, what do you mean? What's the difference between positive and negative ontological status?
Positive would just be something that exists. Negative would be something that doesn't exist in this case.
Great, exactly. Now, what do you mean by something that does not exist?
Something that does not exist is something that does not have act outside of its causes. Something that exists has act outside of its causes and outside a state of nothingness, according to us.
Nothingness. So what's nothingness?
Nothingness would just be the absence of being.
Yeah, but the entire notion of absence requires a boundary.
Yeah, it requires a logical.
It requires a boundary. So
it requires a logical
something,
right? Yeah,
it has to be something.
So the reason why you cannot define.
I don't accept your definition of nothingness or negative ontological status.
Okay, so the reason why you cannot define nothing or you cannot define being is because it doesn't really exist in a genus. So when we define things, they exist in a genus. Like when I say man is a rational animal is a genus, it's a category. Nothing is not in a category. But when I say that nothing is the absence of, well, existence, well then I'm just saying that it's the absence of existence. Logically, that absence is logical. So when you say I'm putting in a category,
that to me is contradictory. How can something that does not exist?
Something can exist.
Coherently assessed.
Sorry, can you let me finish my point? So something can logically exist and not metaphysically or really exist. For example, unicorns logically exist, but they don't really exist. Would you agree?
I think that they don't exist. When we say existence, do you mean in a logical world? Of course, they could exist in a logical world, but existing in a physical world or in reality, I don't think they do exist.
Exactly my point. So nothing exists in the logical substrate, but doesn't exist in the metaphysical.
But what do you mean by non-existent? This is the thing I don't understand.
Yeah, so I just said non-existence is something that has not yet been put into act outside of its causes. So the reason why you exist is because you've been put into act. Act means existence or perfection outside of your cause, which is your mom, for example, right? Now, a unicorn could like logically exist in your brain, but let's just say you have Rick and Morty and they can like spam your thoughts in reality, right? They just put the unicorn outside of its cause, which is your brain. That, for example, is going to give the unicorn existence. And so the whole point that I'm trying to make to you is that something can logically exist.
Yeah, I don't agree.
but not
I don't
metaphysically.
agree. I don't
Okay,
think
so
that's.
why do you think?
I don't think the unicorn even exists. Period. Right.
So the unicorn doesn't even exist in your head.
No.
So you can't think or imagine of a unicorn.
No. What we imagine are. So when you say unicorn, you're talking about a specific being, which does not
Yeah, I'm
exist
just
at all.
saying
Right. It doesn't exist logically.
it
It's not
doesn't.
coherent to talk about. Right.
It doesn't
So
exist
when I
logic.
say not exist, I mean the colloquial way. I mean not logical. Yeah.
I
So
would just disagree. I can obviously think of a unicorn in my head and know that it doesn't exist in my room. Like that's just obvious.
right, but you're not thinking of a unicorn, right? You're not thinking of an actual unicorn. You're thinking of when you think your certain neurons are firing off. So you're not actually thinking of a unicorn. Your brain is igniting.
You have the conceptual notion of unicorn, right? You have they have the concept of unicorn. You know that it's a certain type of horse
Right.
with one nasal on its forehead and
Right,
whatever.
but that unicorn is just a description, a conceptual description of some
Yeah,
entity. It's
and
not
we
a real
agree.
thing, right? Yeah,
We agree.
I'm trying to present some nuance here, right? Because
We agree, but
because this is
that
what you guys, this
concept.
is what a lot of theists do. They love to like exploit these nuances here.
Yeah, but that concept is still not going to exist in reality. It's just going to exist in the mind, and that's my whole point. That something can even if it's just a conceptual definition, something can logically exist and not metaphysically or really exist in reality. I can easily imagine a cop's like just
I
surfing in the
understand what you're
universe.
trying to say, but I want to bring the nuance to the table because this is important.
Yeah,
Because I still don't think nothingness is coherent. Because every time you imagine nothingness, you can't. It's not possible. It's not logical. I think it's contradictory that you imagine something, which is something, and then nothingness. It's a contradictory statement to make that you can
you
imagine.
can't.
Nothing. Because every time you imagine something, it's something. So I'm just trying to present some nuance here.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, so and then again, you're just not really attacking my notion of logical existence or metaphysical existence. That's for one. For two, you can have the concept of something without imagining it. So this was Aristotle's argument for why the intellect cannot be reducible to the brain, because the brain has to do with the imaginations of phantasms, whereas the intellect takes concepts. So, for example, a chiliagon is a shape with 90 squared sides. You can't imagine that shape, but you can easily conceive the structure of the shape. You can easily conceive of a 90 square side shape, but you cannot imagine it, no matter how hard you go. So a concept is not always reducible to an imagination, and you can easily have the concept of a unicorn without really.
I think all thoughts are from the brain. I think that all concepts come from the brain.
Okay, that I think that true. I think
Aristotle, by the way, Aristotle got many things wrong. He was not very smart in many regards scientifically. I think Aristotelian physics is wrong, right? So Newton and Einstein destroyed Aristotelian physics. So
that's not
metaphysics.
Have you Aristotle is one of the most strawmanned philosophers ever. Aristotle was definitely the smartest people that ever walked. One of the smartest people that ever walked the earth.
Well, smartest relatively speaking, maybe, but not in today's world. He thought there was earth and wind and fire as elements. That's stupid. That's nonsense. He got lots of things wrong.
He thought of earth, but it depends on what you mean by elements.
He thought there were elements of earth and wind and fire. That's stupid. That's dumb.
That's how. Wait, hold up. He thought that earth, wind, and fire and air were natural elements in the world, just as Heraclitus and the other philosophers.
He thought that those elements made up everything in the universe, which isn't stupid.
No, Aristotle did not think that. He didn't think that. I've read Aristotle. I've read Aristotle's physics. He did not think that everything in the universe is made up of earth, water, fire, and that's ridiculous.
Are you sure about that?
Aristotle.
But
so
he got many other things incorrect about his metaphysics, but
Aristotle. Well, no,
look,
no, no. Aristotle did not get anything incorrect metaphysically or principally speaking. He got some things incorrect physically or biologically speaking due to his lack of access
yeah, that's why
epistemically.
he was wrong. That's
Wait,
why you can't just accept anything he says because he was wrong in many regards. Yes, he
wait,
was a
hold up,
smart,
hold up.
clever person,
Aristotle was
but
wrong
not
in a lot.
correct.
Wait, hold up. Aristotle was wrong in a lot in quite a lot of stuff in regard, but he was right in a lot of stuff. No one has ever done as much subjects as Aristotle. He did everything. He did economics, politics, poetry, philosophy, science, art. He did every single thing. So when you say Aristotle was wrong in a lot of stuff, it's because he was right in a lot of stuff. What are you talking about?
Congratulations, but that
Aristotle was
doesn't make
history.
him correct. Look, you keep appealing to authority
Yeah.
by
So
saying, "Oh,
wait, can
Aristotle
you tell
thought
me?
this," right? All I'm trying to
Yeah.
show you, all I'm trying to show you is that you can't say Aristotle
Wait,
thought
hold
this,
up, hold up, hold up.
and therefore you're
Aristotle.
correct.
Wait,
Right?
hold
That
up.
doesn't
You
make
do
it
realize
incorrect.
Einstein was wrong about some things, but why would I ever reject the general theory of relativity? Like,
I never appeal to authority today. I never did
wait,
that.
hold
You
up.
are.
But I told you,
You
I
are appealing
literally
to
just
authority.
hold up. Sorry, I
Yeah.
literally just told you that Aristotle. This is Aristotle's idea, right? Critique my idea, and then you said Aristotle's wrong about a lot of stuff. Just because you're wrong about something does not
Well,
mean you're
you've
wrong at this
implied
point.
that because Aristotle believed it was correct. That's what you're implying here. So
Why
you
would I
agree that.
imply?
So then let's move on. If you agree with me, then let's move on. Then
No, I just want you to
I
like.
want you to show me that that thoughts, that nothingness exists.
Yeah,
Right?
nothingness.
Know what that means? Define nothingness in
Nothingness only logically exists. So I just explained to you that you can explain the absence of something.
How do you logically describe nothingness?
Yeah, nothingness is just going to be the absence of some act that's placed outside of its cause, logically speaking.
An act that's outside of its cause?
Yeah, it's going to be the absence of any act or perfection outside of its
Absence
cause.
of any act outside of its cause. And what's the absence of something?
The absence of something is going to be the non-presence, is going to be like the
It's
negation of
tautology. That's a tautology. Look, this is the problem.
What
do you mean by absence of something?
Yeah,
It requires a boundary.
it
There has to be
requires
a
a
boundary,
logical.
and that boundary is something. So in your definition of nothing is included.
I haven't defined it. I just told you.
Something.
Hold on. Okay. Definitions require conceptual categories or genuses. You cannot define nothing and you cannot define being because they don't have conceptual
Well, then that
categories
is not
really
coherent to me.
exist.
Then why would we accept
hold
it's
up,
not
hold up.
logically coherent?
Hold up. Just because you cannot define something doesn't mean you can't have an idea or a sense of what or the quiddity of that
can't
thing.
do both.
That is
You can't do
ridiculous.
either. You can't do either. You cannot conceive of
So
nothing.
because you cannot define
logically
something,
understand it, you cannot describe it.
okay, so wait, hold up. So you're saying just because you cannot define something, you cannot understand it?
No, what I'm saying is you cannot conceive of absolute nothingness. I don't think it's a logically coherent thing to even talk about. And that's why what you're describing is something to me. So again, you're assuming there's an absence, but there's actually a presence of stuff. There's a presence of a boundary. Every time you say that there's an absence, you're invoking a boundary.
Yeah, and you're really not critiquing what I just said. Something can
I am. You just don't want to accept it for some reason.
Something can logically exist and not really exist. So when you keep saying I'm putting a logical category, I don't care because I've already conceded that something can logically
That's not what I'm
exist.
contending. That's not what I'm contending. What I'm saying is not
Mm-hmm.
only does it not exist in reality, it doesn't exist logically.
Sorry, what did you say?
What I'm saying is logically it's incoherent to even talk about nothingness.
So what's the issue with saying that nothing is the absence or is the absence of any act that's placed outside of its cause? What's the issue with that?
Because absence is still ambiguous. The idea, what does absence mean?
Absence, the lack or the privation of any particular form or object. That's what absence is, the privation of something.
Okay.
And nothing is going to be the privation of being.
But in order to know a lack of something, you need a boundary to understand that lack. There's a lack in that area.
Yeah, but you need
understanding.
when you say boundary, it's going to be weird. You need a conceptual category on the being itself, not on the lack. So, for example, blindness in man is a privation of man. So if you are blind, that's a privation in you. But in order for me to understand you're blind, it's not going to be on blindness itself, it's going to be on you. The same thing with nothing. In order for you to understand nothing, it's going to be based on being and existence itself, not on non-being. That's all I'm telling you. And you're not really attacking what I said.
No, it's not.
Okay, go
It's
on.
not. It's dysanalogous. Because when you are understanding somebody being blind and it's the privation of sight, the difference between that and nothingness is that we don't have a universe of nothing. We don't have a logical existence of nothingness.
No, that's not what I said. I said, okay, yeah. So in you,
we don't know what privation of nothing of something is.
Okay,
We
so
don't know
I
what
just
that means. We don't know
just
what
said that
privation of something is. That's not coherent to me.
I just said that nothing is the privation of anything that ontologically really exists.
Don't know what that means, right? When you say privation is something,
Okay,
that
so
implies something that necessitates and entails a boundary or which
oh my
means something.
gosh. Well, how are you not really understanding what I'm saying? So a lack, right, is something. I agree with you. But a lack of being is only logically something, not metaphysically something. So nothing is the lack of being logically, not metaphysically. I've conceded to you that nothing can logically exist. But when I'm saying nothing, I'm talking about metaphysical existence. Please understand what I'm saying. Stop, just please understand
Yeah,
what I'm
it
saying.
still doesn't metaphysically still
But how
doesn't.
does that not how does that not make sense? Yeah, it doesn't metaphysically exist, right?
No, it's not coherent metaphysically.
Yeah, I agree. It's not coherent metaphysically, but not on a logical scale.
If it's
You
if
can
it's
easily
incoherent, you can't talk about it. It's not coherent. It's a fallacious reason. It's fallacious.
something cannot exist metaphysically and exist logically. So I've explained to you how nothing can exist logically. Can you explain to me how that doesn't make sense? And then you're gonna bring up, oh, but when you say nothing, you talk about metaphysics. Yeah, I'm just talking about logical, okay? Nothing can exist logically. Do you agree or do you disagree? If you disagree,
Well, I agree that there's certain definitions that when we colloquially use the word nothing, we're talking about privation of something, absolutely. But when we talk about nothingness, true absolute nothingness, that to me is inconsistent with reality. I don't think it's possible
yes, it's
metaphysically
not.
to have nothingness, and that's
Yeah,
why
that's
I'm
we
rejecting the
agree.
premise that
We agree.
there's this dichotomy between
Wait, there's no
positive and negative ontological status. I think
wait, hold up. There's
there's
no
no difference.
sorry to interrupt you because you said something very important. You agree with me. So when you say nothing cannot exist metaphysically, that's the point. So the reason why something that exists, right, or like anything that's an act or anything that has existence, right? The reason why it cannot be limited by non-being or non-existence is because it doesn't exist metaphysically, as you just said. Which is what I'm trying to get you to
No,
understand.
I don't know what non-existence even metaphysically
Yeah.
means.
Okay. So whether you know it or not, you just said that it's coherent. It's not coherent with reality. So we don't even care about if you know it or not. You're a smart person, but for
We
this
can
particular
look.
for this particular problem,
When you say nothingness, it makes no sense logically.
okay, you just agreed.
metaphysically.
You just agreed that nothingness does not metaphysically exist because that makes no sense, and we agree. So it cannot even come
Then you
from.
can't use the word and make it. It doesn't make sense.
Wait,
Then
hold up.
it's fallacious.
For anyone, wait, hold up. Just because something doesn't make sense to you does not mean, like, for example,
Not what I'm saying. It doesn't make any metaphysical or logical sense.
okay, oh my gosh, you're just getting back to the point.
It's incoherent.
Let's just
It's like
okay. Let's just say nothing doesn't make sense. Then it cannot come from any, okay. Let's just say that nothing doesn't make sense, Mike. Okay, if nothing doesn't make sense, then it can't come from nothing because nothing doesn't make sense. So you agree with me? That's my point to you.
no, that's another fallacious reasoning. Now you're assuming that nothingness exists for it to not come from that. You understand the problem? This is
No,
exactly the problem with your view.
Mike, look, I am telling you,
When you say
right?
it can't come from that, it implies that that thing exists.
Look,
It
I'm
doesn't,
telling
which
I'm
means
telling
that
you,
there's only one possibility, metaphysically speaking, and that's
okay,
existence. That's why
hold up.
non-existence doesn't make any metaphysical sense.
Okay, hold up. Something can be rendered logically or conceptually without being rendered metaphysically. I just told you that nothing is the absence of being, and that absence is understood in the abstract. It's not understood metaphysically. But even if you disagree, Mike, let's just say you disagree. If you disagree, that's fine. My point to you is that it can't come from that anyways because you disagree. You don't think it is, and I think it is. And it can't come from that anyways.
When you
It
say
can't
come from
come from
that,
its.
when you say come from that,
You're going to
that's
be like, what do you mean?
that's incoherent.
Okay, let's just scratch it out. Let's just say that nothing doesn't exist. Then finite being, right, cannot even be restricted by its what was the other one? The other option. By itself. So it cannot be restricted by itself because it's its opposite or it's its negation. The same way that darkness cannot come from light because darkness is the negation of light or is the opposite of light. So you literally have made my premise easier by me saying that, okay, finite being exists and I said at first that finite being is either restricted by nothing or itself. But you said that I can't say nothing because nothing doesn't exist. Whatever. Now, finite being is only restricted by itself. But it
First of
cannot
all,
be.
look. When you say darkness is deprivation of light, that doesn't make sense either.
Oh my.
Darkness does not have an ontological status at all. I reject that.
Oh my gosh. Darkness is just going to be the absence of light. Okay? That's it. Whether the absence is metaphysical or conceptual, me and you, we both don't care. We just want to get back with our days. Okay? So, darkness, absence of light. I just brought the example, Mike. I just used the example. Please understand what I'm saying. I just used the example. Even if you don't think darkness really exists, I'm just using an example. The fact is that the limitation of that finite being cannot come from that same finite being itself because it's its opposite. So the whole point is that it has to come from some positive principle that is really distinct from that finite being, which is its potency that limits the finite being's existence to the existence to being finite. That's the whole point. If you reject the other option that I gave, non-being, which is, in my opinion, ridiculous, but if you reject it, that's fine. I don't care. But the point is that it has to come from some principle that's really distinct from that finite being, which is what we call potency. You can call it X, Y, Z, Brigandi, it's whatever. We call it potency because it's some independent ontological principle that limits finite being. And we're going to say that every finite being is composed of this act and this potency. And that's the whole point.
Yeah, and we can just reject it and say nothing has potentiality. And that's it. Your argument's
Okay,
kaput.
so for you to reject something, you need a reason to reject it. So do you have any reason to reject my argument?
Yeah, because everything could be actualized.
Okay. You saying that everything could be actualized doesn't really disagree with me, Mike. So can you literally
Yes, it does. It literally does. It directly disagrees, right? Just because
it
nothing has
doesn't disagree with
potentiality.
me. I think that everything could be actualized.
Okay, great. So then then nothing would have potentiality, right?
No, I think that everything could be actualized. Like everything in potency could be actualized.
Or everything is and always was actualized and eternally actualized.
Okay, so there's nothing in
There
being.
is no potentiality.
Okay, so you're saying that everything is infinite then?
Essentially, yeah. Well, when
Okay.
you say infinite, there's different types of infinities. But
No.
I
Everything
would
is
say
infinite.
that I would say there's no
Yeah.
there's no boundary to the universe in its entirety.
Okay, so every ontological being within this set of contingent things in the universe is infinite according to you. Is infinite according to you. So if everything in the world is infinite according to you,
No, I never said that. I don't know why you're doing this.
Okay, I'm arguing from things that are finite, and you just said that you can just accept that everything is actualized. So everything's
When you
actual. So
say we're
nothing is.
finite, in what way are
Yeah.
we finite?
Okay, so I just told you again, please understand and listen to me because I'm tired of repeating this, that everything that exists, like being could only go two ways, finite or infinite. There can only be infinite being or finite being. And that finite being is going to be limited by some positive ontological principle. You just said that everything in the universe is going to be fully actual. So there's not going to be any limitations to anything in the universe. That means everything in the universe is infinite. There's no
What?
limitations.
No, that doesn't make any sense at all. How does it follow that everything's infinite because it's actualized?
Because I just explained to you that if infinite being is just something that's always actual, so there's no potency in infinite being.
Whose definition is that? Is that where definition is that? Everything that's actualized is infinite. What definition is that?
No, not everything that's actualized is infinite. That's not what I said. I said infinite being is going to be. There's a difference between saying something is actualized and something is always actual. I don't know why you're shaking your head like this is like not common language.
So where did you get this definition that everything that is actualized is infinite?
I didn't say everything is actualized as infinite.
Okay, great.
Again,
so then everything that is actualized could be finite still.
Yeah. So my point to
Okay,
you.
great. So then we're finite.
No, look, there's a difference between saying, like, someone is reading this book and someone read this book. Okay, like, bro, this is simple language. Come on now. I agree with you that everything can be actualized. I agree that everything can be actualized. I disagree in saying that everything is already actual. That everything is already actual. That's why I disagree with you. Because now you're going to start saying, right, that there's nothing in being within the universe that has limitations of my argument. And if there's nothing in being within the universe that has limitations, that means that everything.
Okay, great. So why do you say that everything? If I said everything would be actual, why would it be the case that it would be infinite? What definition are you working with?
Okay, because I just explained to you, right, that infinite being is going to be a being that has no limitations to its ontological status.
Okay, why does something being actual mean it has no limitations?
No, infinite being. Oh my gosh, act is unlimited in my definition, and potency is what limits that unlimited thing. Okay, so infinite being.
Unlimited.
Yeah, act is unlimited.
Okay.
Yeah, in my definition.
What do you mean by act and what do you mean by unlimited?
Act is going to be any unlimited perfection of a thing. Okay, and I'm tired of explaining this, but the whole point is that infinite being is going to be always act. Is always going to be in actual.
Look, this is why you guys exploit these words, this nuance. You guys,
just say you didn't understand what
they'll never talk about this. Let's. What do you mean by this shit? Right?
You don't understand my terms. Just say that
Then
instead of saying.
Then explain it to me, right?
And I was explaining to you, and you cut me off.
Actual. Why does something being actual mean it's infinite?
Okay, so it's like saying, bro, it's like saying the number 1 equals to like ONE. It's the same thing. Act and the infinite for me, or act and perfection, is the same thing. I'm explaining to you.
Perfection. What do you mean perfection?
Oh my gosh. Perfection is where a lack of something cannot be found. That's what we describe perfection as.
You said there's a lack of anything. Why do we...
Okay, so here's my point to you. That there is 2 ways that being could go. Infinite or finite. Now, let me explain what infinite is. Let me explain what finite is. Infinite is something that has no limits to its being. So it's infinite. And finite is going to be something that has limits. It's restricted. It can move. It has a state. It has a position. Okay?
But the limits are not going to be arbitrary, right? You're talking about, in this context, you're talking about a specific
arguing about that, bro.
It's actions, right?
What do you say, sorry?
When you say something's infinite, you're talking about its action. It's actuality, right?
Yeah, it's actuality. What do you, bro? Actuality just means the being of a thing. It doesn't really mean anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
why would that make it infinite in being?
Oh my gosh. Because potency is what limits being. So if something doesn't have potency, it doesn't have limits. It's going to be unlimited.
Unlimited in what?
Unlimited in its being.
Okay, great. So why do we have to? Yeah, we can just say everything's unlimited in its being. In other words, it's eternally existing. There's no limits to it existing. It just is.
Bro, it's just
We can,
switching.
why can't we say
Okay,
that?
so now
This is your entire argument? Are you serious?
no, Mike, for now, you've accepted that everything that's in being in the universe is unlimited in its being. You just accepted that.
I don't see limits to our being. We just exist.
Okay, so now you've shifted the whole argument to different. So at first you did not understand my argument. Now you're saying that everything in the universe
Can
is
you give an
unlimited.
example as like what a
No,
limit
no,
would
wait,
be
no,
to
no,
my
no.
being?
You've already said. Well, hold up, just
No,
relax.
just give an example of a limit to my being would be like. Give me an example.
Oh, a limit to your being
Yeah.
is going to be like a potency for you to move to some other place or something. That's a limit because you've not actualized that limit yet. But let's just concede to your point. So you just said that everything in the
Limit to my
universe.
being would be moving.
No, like
You
a
haven't
limit.
done it yet.
Okay, so for example,
This is exactly the reason why I asked you these questions, because at the end of the day,
no.
it's so trivial to
This
say
is gonna.
this.
So for example, you
Yes,
don't know.
I
Let
would
me give
agree
you a better
with you
example.
that everything in your definition is
Let's give you no. Wait. Let's get back.
everything is actual.
Let's just stick on the
There you
point that you just
go.
made. Wait, let's just stick on the
Your
point.
argument is so trivial at this point.
Okay, let's just stick on that like very intelligent point that you just made. So at first, another example of a limitation is you don't know anything about Aristotle. If you read Aristotle and you read Aristotle, you've unlocked some limitation. That's a limit that you don't know anything about Aristotle. But now, let's just concede to your point. You said that everything in the universe could be unlimited. You just said it.
That would
You
be
just said it.
perceptual. That would be a perceptual thing. It wouldn't be a fundamental feature.
Oh my gosh. So everything would only be perceptually unlimited, but in reality it would be limited.
Nothing. I think that if under your definition, everything that is actual is unlimited. There is no limits to our. We don't have potentiality.
Yeah. So hold on.
Potentiality is perceptual. This is the thing we talked about.
You've conceded
This is
to my
the thing we
definition.
talked about in the very beginning.
So
That all
everything
you
is
had to
unlimited
do was
according to you.
that is still valid, and you still have yet to refute this
So
view.
everything in the universe is unlimited according to you. Like it's always actual according to you.
This is the first thing I told you.
No.
Yes,
So
there is no
right now,
potentiality.
no, because you didn't concede to my terms that time. So now everything is unlimited according to you. So when you look at your window, it is unlimited. When you look at your doorstep, it is unlimited. When you look at your laptop, it's unlimited according to you, right?
Everything
It
is
has no
unlimited
limitations.
because yes, we can view the universe as one structure which all possibilities already exist.
Okay, so now here. So
Period.
here.
All
So if
possibilities
the
are
phone, wait, hold up.
actualized.
Hold up. If the phone is unlimited, if the phone in your hand is unlimited, why is it smaller than you?
What?
Yes, why is
It
it
could
smaller
not
than
have
you?
been any other way, right? We can take a necessitarian
Oh my gosh,
approach to this
you're
and
just
say it could not have been
conceding to
another
the.
way. Why do we have to accept the notion that it could have been another way?
Look, you was telling the other guy before me to read physics. You need to desperately read metaphysics. If the phone is unlimited, why is it in structure? Why is it limited by structure? It's smaller than you. My point to you.
Okay, well then, can God sin?
Okay, see that's a different topic. My point.
Can God sin? He's limited then, right? If he can't sin, right?
No, that's not the fundamental point because the thing.
No, it is the fundamental
Oh
point.
my
Can God sin?
Okay, God cannot sin, but even
Then he's
if
limited. Then he's limited.
no,
Then he's
no,
limited.
he's not
Then
because
he's limited. He's limited.
oh my gosh, dude, limitations come from the ontology of something. So because God's ontological.
Oh, okay, great. So if you're going to
Yeah.
appeal to this and say that, oh, God could not have been in any
No,
way, why can't I say this
wait,
for
hold
the
up,
universe?
dude, please.
Why can't I say
stop
this
trying
for
to-
the universe and say that the universe could not have been
Let's
in
have
any
it. Wait, hold up. Let's have a substantial intellectual conversation about the things.
No,
Yeah.
you're not going to do
Let's have
this.
a.
Do you understand what I just
Yeah,
raised?
let me finish. Let me finish my point. So you can't just. So for us, evil. The reason why I said sin comes from, the reason why I said sin or goodness comes from the ontology of something, is because for us, evil is a privation of ontology. So
Okay,
because
great.
God. So wait, hold up. If God could sin, it would limit him even more because evil is a privation of being. It is not an addition to being.
Right. So
So, for
you're
example,
saying God could not have been any other way, right? He could have.
God,
He was
God could not be
necessarily that way.
privated. That's why he's unlimited.
No, critical. You're saying that God is necessary, right? He
Yeah, God is
necessarily is that way.
necessary.
Okay, great.
What
So
is it?
why couldn't we just say that the phone and the
Okay,
structure of
now
the
you're
phone is
bringing up
necessarily
a
this way?
different argument. Oh my God. Mike, can you stick to one argument for the love of
No,
God?
I'm appealing to the same
It's
logic you
6
are.
a.m. over here. Can you stick to one
Critical,
argument? Stick to one.
critical. Listen, do you know what I just told you?
This guy can't debate, dude. Oh my.
Oh, you're gonna run? Okay, great. So
How am I running?
when it comes,
You're the
because
one
you're not
running.
answering what I'm telling
No,
you. You're not listening.
you said God cannot sin.
Yes. When you say God cannot sin, that is a limit on God's existence.
No,
Now,
it is
you're gonna,
not.
well, then you're going to say it's not because God was necessarily that way, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh, so
Sin, okay.
God could have sinned?
No, so sin
Okay, great.
and
So then God was necessarily is not sinning.
yeah, no. So sin and evil
No.
is why
Is
you
God
why
necessarily
do you keep
that way?
interrupting me, Mike?
Because you're not answering my question. Is God necessarily the way
I'm
He is?
trying to answer your question and you
Critical.
keep cutting me off.
Is God necessarily the way
So
He makes
can
He
you
is?
can you stop cutting me off, please, so I can answer your question from our metaphysical understanding of
Answer
how
the question.
yeah, so I'm trying to answer your question. Please don't cut me off. So the reason why your question is flawed is because evil and sin comes from a privation in being. The same way that blindness comes from a privation in the human being's power or natural capacity to see things. Sin and evil comes from a privation of being. So if God could sin, it would cause him to limit himself even further, according to you, because sin and evil are privations or they are lacks in a being, and God has no lacks in his being.
Well, first of all, we don't have to accept that nonsense. We can say that good is a
Okay,
privation
just
of evil.
because you don't
right?
accept it doesn't make it wrong.
Listen to what I'm saying. Listen, we can just as easily say that goodness is a privation of evil, right? So I think that's
Oh my,
clumsy
that is
form of prayer.
ridiculous.
But more importantly,
That is ridiculous, bro.
what you're saying is God necessarily is good. And we can say the same for the structure of the universe. It's necessarily this structure.
Yeah, hold up.
So
That's
we
not.
can appeal to the same logic that you're
That's
doing
not.
here,
Wait, hold up. Mike,
So
you
there
do
you go.
this every. Hold up. You do this every single debate. You shift it to a completely different topic, and then you shift my argument. So I was not even arguing. Let's just forget about the fact that I'm Christian. Let's just say I'm an Aristotelian. Aristotle did not really believe in a God that knew everything that was going on and cared about people and stuff like that. So let's just say I'm an Aristotelian. Please, let's get to a substantial conversation and stop shifting the topic. Now,
I'm not shifting anything. What did I shift?
Okay. So I argued from finite being and infinite being, and you conceded that everything in the universe is unlimited. I asked you, is your phone unlimited? You said yes, your phone is unlimited.
Everything is unlimited and everything is actual.
Okay, so your phone is unlimited.
Yes, everything is actual. If you're gonna say
So
unlimited,
why is your phone?
stop. When you say unlimited, you mean it's actual.
Yeah, unlimited
So
actual.
in my view, everything is actual. And when you say, well, why is your phone this way? Well, guess what? I can say that it is every way that is possible under this superposition that I hold to that we talked about before, that you're
still
missing.
not gonna. That's
You're
doesn't even make
continually missing from this argument, right?
Okay, so the reason why
you still don't understand what I'm talking about.
Okay, the reason why I told you.
Stop, critical, please listen.
Okay, you want me to
Every
stop?
possible state of my phone exists as actual.
Okay, so
Do you understand what? Do you understand? Do you understand?
Yeah. So yeah, I understand.
You understand? Do you understand what I told you?
What did
I
why
tell
do you
you?
keep
What did
cutting
I
me
tell
off,
you?
dude?
What did I tell you?
You said that.
What did I
Why
tell
you-
you?
Why are you cutting me off?
What did I tell you?
Why you cut me off?
What did I tell you? If you don't
Why are
understand
you
this, you're
cutting
gonna
me
go
off?
bye-bye. What did I tell you?
Why you cutting me off?
What did I tell you?
Why are you cutting me off? Do you think you're gonna bully me like how you bully the other people in your lives?
I don't bully anybody, jackass.
Okay, so then let me speak.
Now explain to me what I told you.
What did you call me? Sorry.
I called you a jackass because you're not listening.
You called me a jackass.
Can you please listen?
You called me a jackass.
Everything in the universe, in
Right.
my view, is
Right.
actual. In that sense, the
Yeah.
phone
You're getting
exists in
angry.
all
You're
possible
getting mad.
structures it can.
You're getting mad.
Hence, Everything is actual and unlimited under my view.
Yeah. So
There you go. You
yeah,
don't need God for that. You don't need theism. You don't need Thomism. You don't need any of that shit. You don't need a magic
views.
man who died on a stick for you. You don't need any of that shit.
I can't like,
Now explain to me.
relax. Don't ever talk about my God like that. You need to
Oh,
relax.
he's gonna cry because
You would never say that.
his God's
You would never
feeling.
say that in reality, bro.
Aw,
So
he died
stop
on a
saying
stick
that
in 2
online.
days. He died like a dog in 2 days.
Okay.
Poor man. He bled for our sins.
Okay, bro. I hope that God forgives you for saying that. I can't
I
lie.
hope that you grow a
Because
brain
I'm literally trying
because
to have
you don't because your entire argument just got refuted in 2 seconds, and now
my
you're
entire argument got refuted in 2 seconds. See, one thing about you, you need to actually relax because you're not really sure
Can you
how
give the
to
refutation or
argue
go away?
against
Can you give the
Christians,
refutation or just go?
and you keep
Can you
insulting
give the
Jesus Christ.
refutation? Give the refutation or go away.
Stop insulting Jesus Christ, and I'll literally continue
Why? Wait,
talking.
is he gonna cry?
Because why are you insulting Jesus Christ? Why you did he
Oh,
do
is he
anything?
limited? Is he limited? He can't cry because he's limited, right?
This guy's such a baby. How old are you? You know you're like 30,
I
like
thought
20
God
years
was
older than me.
critical. I thought God was limited. He can't cry.
You're like 20 years older than me, acting like a little kid on live. Like, what's wrong with you? Don't you have kids?
Okay,
Look
so
at
do
your
you have
beard.
a refutation?
Don't you have kids? What's up with your life? Flipping idiot, bro.
Yeah, I do have kids. They're your brothers. Look, guys, his entire argument collapsed once we actually took and talked about the terms. That's why he got flustered and ran away. It's very, very simple to understand my take, and he didn't. That's why he thought he won. Okay. I cut him off. Yeah, because he was just yappity, yappity, yappiting. No shit, I'm gonna cut you off if you're yapping. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. I gotta go. Hope you enjoyed. Don't talk about my God like that. I thought God was unlimited. Okay. Host got cooked. Oh, can you show me where I got cooked? Show me the argument. Why do I make fun of other religions? Because religion makes fun of us. For thousands of years, religion has made fun of us. Tells us that we need to be saved. Tells us that we are no good. We don't know morality without the book. Religion tells us that we're nothing without God. That we're just here for a test. That's mockery. Religion is not something that we should just bow down to. We should challenge it sometimes. We should question it sometimes. And just because we mock it doesn't make me a bad person. It deserves mockery because it does a lot of harm to us. And I know all the Christians in the comments are mad because, I did insult. Look, it was a heated debate. And do I regret saying those things? Kind of. But at the same time, I think religion gets too much credit. I think we need to start challenging it more and mocking it more. No religion should be exempt, or belief. No belief should be exempt from criticism at all.